one. Hello, my beautiful, beautiful people. How are you on this fantastic evening? I am the great and illustrious Dungeon Master, Jeremy, aka Trust a Flump, and I am joined by Pete.
Pete, I am the great and lustrous. The great and lustrous. I forgot this week. I remembered to think of something to say last week. But I'm Pete, and I'm less good at saying things in the intro because I always forget that I have to do it for just this show for some reason. So what you gonna do?
You know, it's just how it is. And more importantly than how Pete and I are, how are you, our beautiful, beautiful audience? So many P's and J's. There are a fair number of P's and J's. Well, see Holly's item. Yeah, there's a bunch of cool items in this. So for those unfamiliar with DnDTime Brews, this is a fantastic. Well, actually, wait. Hold the freaking Pete. What delicious brew are you drinking this evening?
Oh my god, I forgot. I'll crack it right here. This, I think, is the most brewish beer I've had so far, in that it is a beer that would be drunk by someone who would call his beers brews, and that is the Coors Light. That's right. I went to a big cookout yesterday, and I got 36 of these in a package. And so I'll be drinking Coors Light for a little bit. But only once on stream, as I'm going to try and mix it up on the week to week. But yes, today I do have the light beer, the world's most, if I may advertise a bit for Coors Light, it's the world's most refreshing can. Actually, I probably shouldn't do that. I feel like that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that, Pete.
Well, it's what's done is done. In retrospect, what's done is done. It is the world's most refreshing can, according to them, though.
And I am also mixing it up this week. I have, wait, never mind. It's the same thing I drink every week. It's just rum and Coke. Oh, well. And wonderful chat. I hope you're having a wonderful, delicious, legal beverage wherever you may be, and enjoying your Sunday
adult
afternoon
beverage
into your now Sunday evening. And thanks for taking a minute to spend it with Pete and myself. We love you a lot. Thank you.
Indeed we do.
Heart symbol. Pete, how about you take a minute and let these beautiful people know, for those who may not be familiar, what do we do here in DnDTime Brews?
Oh, that's an excellent segue, Jeremy. What we do here on DnDTime Brews is we homebrew things, as in we build content, and specifically we build content for 5th edition and our specific game, Pete and Jeremy's DnDTime, which I assume that all of you are familiar with, on Friday. That we play on Fridays. It's fun, and we make content. We do things like subclasses, we do custom races that we've done, we do magic items, which we did last week, and then this week, of course, we are doing player-submitted items. Items that all of you, or some of you presumably, have submitted for us to review and speak about here on stream, and just kind of talk about our thoughts on them.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun, and I'm really excited about this week. There's some really creative, really interesting items you guys have submitted. So it's going to be cool going through them all and seeing how it's going. And I just want to point this out before it's lost to the chat scroll. Ian Grimm 9, Pete the Luscious. Pete, congratulations. You now have a title.
Pete the Luscious.
You are now level 4 in D&D.
I never would have described myself as luscious, but I guess
you already
that's what
did.
the people...
You did earlier.
Did I? Oh, well,
that was the word.
Oh, well... Jeremy, I don't know, man. I'm tired. I had a long day yesterday, and I'm still recovering from said day.
I had a very short day so far, and so I have all of my attention just for you, beautiful chat. Vandro saying if you see him mixing it up because it's Coke and rum and not rum and Coke. You know what? I think it might be rum and Coke, but don't tell Vandro. Let him think it's a trick. Anyway. Yeah, we got awesome items. We got 15 item submissions, which is pretty cool. I realize we're cutting one off down at the very bottom right now at the screen. So just scroll down a little bit more.
Oh, wait. That was just on there twice. That's gone now.
Okay, never mind. We weren't cutting any of them off. Yep. We have 15 item submissions, a bunch of really creative, cool ideas. Our basic deal tonight, we're going to start just going through them, and we're going to talk through what these item submissions really look like, what we're going to revise about them, because there will be inevitable revisions to even the best item submissions here, and basically get them ready to put right into Bartholomew's big bag bonanza in D&D time. So stay tuned. It should be really cool. One thing before we get forward, and then Pete, I'll throw it over to you, but one note before we start going here. There will be changes and revisions to every single item on this list. None of them are personal kind of knocks at the items. Every item that was submitted was like cool in its own right. A couple of them really made us laugh because there was a lot of good humor in them. You know who you are if you made well, you'll find out when we get to you. But yeah, they're all pretty cool. We will make inevitable changes to them. Some of them may end up being scrapped. I don't think we're going to end up scrapping any, but there might just be some that require too much work for us to sit down and revise for.
Yeah, would take some more time.
It's important to note that these items are being edited and changed to work in Pete and Jeremy's D&D time, which is very different than normal D&D campaign. Being 3 1-hour to 1.5-hour long one-shots every week, these items have to function a very specific way. What works for our game doesn't necessarily work for any other game of Dungeons and Dragons, even a normal one-shot, which would be like 3 or 4 hours, like Delves. So just keep that in mind. There is no offense intended at all with any of the revisions we make, and
absolutely,
the revisions are not because the items are bad, but they are because we
want to make them fit in D&D time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's to make them work for our specific purpose. Overall, though, these are some pretty sweet items.
Yeah, there's some great stuff. Some great stuff that I was really, really into. And also, there's a question from Farku. When did you check these out? We got yours in, Farku. I see the unstrippable armor on there if you don't see it. But you snuck in under the wire. And then just a general statement, we are going to go through, if you submit an item, we are going to talk about it. We probably, just realistically on how long we usually tend to take to like actually make an item, we won't be able to get through every single one. But we will at least mention each one, read the description, and talk a little bit, even if there's not enough time to actually build it. We'll talk kind of what changes we would make on that item, and just kind of give an idea of our thoughts on it. So we'll get to all of you.
Exactly. And if you submitted more than one item, you'll notice that your second items have been moved to the back of the line. And that is simply because, well, we got to give everyone a chance if we can. So we're just going to go through the list. It's more or less in the order they were submitted. Let's start digging in, Pete, unless there's any more announcements we want to make.
No, I'm ready to just start. Mind if I read out this first item?
Take it away, Pete, as we move down to the Magic Star Furnace.
All right, so the first one on our list, we have the Magic Star Furnace. This item was submitted by The Forgotten One as a rare item. And I'm just going to go ahead and read you all the description. I know it's a little bit tricky to read on stream. So we have requires attunement to a warlock, a small 5-sided handheld furnace engraved with mystical runes and inscriptions of power. Those who hold such command the power of sparkly shooting stars. And then for the mechanics, the furnace has 6 charges. It recharges 1d6 charges at dawn. By using an action, the user speaks a command word and casts one of 3 spells detailed below. The first of which is Sparkle Burst, which costs 1 charge. A stream of magic stars fly at a single target within 90 feet. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 2d8 force damage. The next is Star Wave. It's also 2 charges. An oscillating wave of magic stars of various sizes and colors shoot towards a 15-foot radius at a target point within 90 feet. All creatures and objects in the area must make a successful dexterity saving throw or take 3d10 force damage or half damage on a success. And last but not least is the most powerful feature of this, the Cosmic Cannon, which costs 4 charges, the epitome of the furnace's power. A 15-foot wide beam of condensed stars, moons, and galaxy shapes that brings destruction to anything within range of 120 feet. All creatures and objects within the beam must make a successful Constitution check or instantly fall to 0 HP, or take 5d10 force damage and be pushed back by 10 feet. So that is the Magic Star Furnace. So there's a lot to go over there. It's a pretty beefy item in terms of all the things it can do.
Yeah, for those of you who joined us last week, where Pete and I brewed up some items with, of course, help from our beautiful chat. I'm sorry, I've just assumed you're all beautiful people. You might look like Pete or me, in which case I'm sorry, but I'm sure you're all beautiful people. I tease. This is a item that relies on charges. There is some standard language for how charges work. So I think before we even dive into what the item is, let me scroll down to where we have our standard language. And let me go. An item of casting spell or casting multiple spells with charges. Gonna go down, copy all of that, and scroll all the way back up to the Magic Star Furnace and plop it. Cool. So I think the first thing to talk about here, and probably the most apparent, is right at the top, requires attunement to a warlock.
Yes.
This is something that's a little funky for Pete and I in DnDTime. We try, unless it's very, very specific, we try to keep items as open as possible.
Yep.
This particular one is Pete, did we announce who wrote this one? Who submitted this item?
I did. This was a deep forgotten one. And also, as a side note, if you have like thoughts on items, just make sure you also be like respectful of the person who made the item and not be like too harsh, because we're all just trying to like learn and grow and kind of improve on the way we build things. So keep that in mind as you're also commenting in chat.
Yeah, our number one rule here in DnDTime: be respectful of all players. That includes everyone who submitted items here tonight. For example, in this item, there are a few things that we are going to need to revise, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's
absolutely. There's also a lot of stuff that's like really cool about this design.
So, so it requires attunement by a warlock. This is an interesting part for us to consider right now because Fox in the Box in chat, it really sucks when you get an item you can't use. That does suck, and there's already a huge discrepancy between magic items for like casters and spellcasters and weapons for martial characters in the bag. And then even beyond that, it's, well, if I'm an archer, do I care if I get this maul? So there's a huge number of big issues as to what items your characters may or may not use. So I think with this one, you know, if possible, I think we want to consider cutting the attunement by a warlock. I think attunement by a spellcaster we could.
Yeah, I was going to also say requires attunement by a spellcaster.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna immediately nix that right there, and down here I'm gonna put this requires attunement
by a spellcaster.
By a spellcaster. Now, also, I still don't even necessarily know we need that, but sorry, go ahead.
Also, just for the record, I think this is clearly a wondrous item.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. This is not an it's actually no E in wondrous.
I'm sorry, I'm a fool.
Yeah. You're a fool? You're a fool, Peter.
I've been a fool.
Yeah, and the forgotten one. Thank you for chiming in chat. And everyone else in chat too. I'm trying real hard to keep attention to that. So, because I've got it literally right in front of my face here, I can't not see it. Good design on my part. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. I'm paying attention. I see there's a lot of discourse going on about that cosmic cannon. Yep. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the cosmic cannon.
It'd be cool, right? Because the first thing when Pete and I see an item like this is, all right, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but from Pete and I's perspective, we can't put this into DnDTime as stand because of Cosmic Cannon, the ability to just insta kill everything. But that's also kind of the core facet of like, this is the coolest thing this item can do. Is so it has this big cannon. So if we can preserve that feel, that would be sweet. Like, one of the things I was immediately thinking, and I know I've just gone off the rails here, off our kind of beaten path, but Pete, how cool do you think it would be if that Cosmic Cannon ability, we kept it pretty much verbatim? We obviously changed up some of the text, but you lost the item if you could expend the item completely to Cosmic Cannon 1. You could use it as a consumable to do that.
I think that could be pretty radical if we want to go that route.
Because otherwise, I'm finding a hard time thinking about how we could even keep it like it is.
Yeah, it would have to just it's to keep the preserve HP effect and to make it as large in scale as it is. That's kind of the only thing I can imagine being feasible is making it kind of a consumable almost in that way.
Yeah, Farku's got a great point in chat too. Rarity. We could just say legendary and throw it up there, but
yeah,
we want sweet items. I think right. People want items to play with.
Yep. And I mean, we may. I think as a rule, we'll probably go back and look at the revised version and then kind of decide what the rarity of what we ended up with is at the end. So let's so we've changed that it requires attunement to a warlock. Let's look at the kind of next chunk of it. A small 5-sided handheld furnace engraved with mystical runes and inscriptions of power. Those who hold such command the power of sparkly shooting stars. I mean, it's a cool flavor. It's a furnace, which is kind of it's a pretty unique it's a pretty unique type of item. Like, I don't think there's anything like that even in the bag from my memories, although I may be mistaken, that kind of like shoots these beams of stars out of it. I actually very like that.
I also like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've
we
already
could change
right there and kind of.
Oh, you already. I was about to recommend something along those lines. Just change the phrasing on a couple of the words, but for the most part, I think that's in pretty good spot. I think the flavor you knocked it out of the park there.
Yeah, I really love the flavor on this one. It's cool, right? The idea of it being a small like furnace that's like hot. I think of it like a portable star almost.
Yeah,
it's just called the star furnace. So
well, yeah,
it is that. And I just think that's a really awesome design. Just feels cool. So what I said, when you're designing items, when you're writing the flavor for them, generally the language goes, it's kind of like in Jeopardy, when you answer a question, and if you've seen the show Jeopardy, when you answer a question in Jeopardy, you answer, what is blank? You answer as a question. That's kind of just the formality. It's how the show works. So when you're describing a magic item, you say this and then describe the item. Rather than up here, it's a small 5-sided blah, blah, blah. That is what it is. It's correct. But convention says you say this 5-sided blah, blah, blah has this.
Yeah, it's always just this and then the actual physical object. So this sword, this furnace, this.
Almost missed the word sparkling. I love that word.
Yes,
here.
it's important. All right, so let's start looking at charges. This furnace has 6 charges. It recharges 1d6 charges at dawn by using an action. The user speaks a command word and can cast one of 3 spells detailed below. So 6 charges as a number, that's, I think, fine, and we can kind of work around that. I don't see any reason to necessarily change the 6 unless it turns out that we need to because of the way we adjust charges later on. But for now, I think that's cool.
I guess my question, right, is there a reason you went with 6, Frog? And you can let us know in the chat, or is there a specific purpose of 6? Because, like, I think 5 would be super applicable, right? Because it's got 5 sides, and that could be neat.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, so we have charges. Cool. So we have the convention for charges. This item has 5 charges. While holding it, you can use an action to expend 1 or more of the charges to cast one of the following spells from it using your spell save DC and ability modifier. So that's the convention. That's how you'd phrase that, generally ability. And the question is, so what are the spells it casts? Let's look at Sparkle Burst.
Yep.
Oops. I don't know about you, Pete, but this looks a lot like a spell that I know.
Actually, one more thing before we get to Sparkle Burst. It says in that first part, it recharges 1d6 charges at dawn. That's something that we're going to probably put on to the end of the item, because that's typically where that goes on a charge-based item. And we probably will change it to just regain all charges at dawn, because in DnDTime, it's hard to track things like how rests work and rolling for that sort of stuff. So just as a kind of a general catch-all for DnDTime, usually if something's going to have a recharge feature, it'll just recharge everything. But that will be thrown on at the end. So that's all I had to say. So yes, Sparkle Burst, Jeremy, what were you saying?
Well, I was going to say, looking at the charge Sparkle Burst, 1 charge, generally speaking, the number of charges spells cost in a magic item are equal to their spell level. So if I look at Sparkle Burst, it does 2d8 force damage, 90-foot range, ranged spell attack, This looks a lot like Chromatic Orb, which is a spell. It's a level 1 spell, which would be 1 charge. It does 2d8. It does 3d8 damage, so it's a little more damage.
Yep, it'll be more damage.
One of the things that I think could be really cool with this is we just say, instead of Sparkle Burst, we call the ability Sparkle Burst and says you cast Chromatic Orb, you know, and it does a thing.
And we would want to make that Chromatic Orb or Chromatic Orb at a level equal to charges expended.
I think you always want to do charges expended because we want this item to be more usable for higher level characters who may just want to say, yeah, I just want to spend all of its
blow it all on
a big chromatic
on a big impact. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that it makes it more versatile for higher level characters who wouldn't want to just cast level 1 Chromatic Orb anymore. So I think that might be a cool idea. Chromatic Orb. Star Wave is another interesting ability. We look at Star Wave without material components because the gem you needed for the. Oh yeah, I mean exactly, no material components. So Star Wave, 2 charges, and this is a kind of interesting spell or interesting ability. It's a wave of stars, but it's in a 15-foot radius centered at a point within 90 feet. It's almost like a fireball or a kind of like a shatter spell in terms of its area of effect. But the idea, I think, is that it's stars falling. And that's one of the things that kind of wigged me out. And it does 3d10 force damage. One of the things that kind of wigged me out a little bit was just the name Wave, calling it Star Wave, but then having it be an area away from you. Wave almost feels like it should be like a cone, maybe? I don't know. That just kind of, if we're going to use something like Star Wave, maybe we want to go with a more conical effect. I don't know. What do you think, Pete?
Well, yeah, and I am agreeing with you on the kind of off on the wave, but also if Frog, you're still here, I'd also like to see what you think, kind of like how you envisioned the Star Wave to kind of work, and what the flavor that you had was. But I think a cone would work well for Star Wave, or we could also change the name from Wave to something like Star Bomb, and it kind of now tosses this kind of grenade in the distance of this same kind of damage.
Yeah, I mean, Thunderwave would even be a pretty not so bad. I mean, the thing is, I think the damage is off a little bit here because this is 3d10. We want it to be more impactful. I think a normal Thunderwave, which is only 2d8.
What's a good comparable spell to kind of look for comparison?
Well, I think Thunderwave is the comparable spell, right? It's just you cast Thunderwave at level 2 and it becomes 3d8.
3d10. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Instead of d10s. At least if we make it into a cone. If we're doing from a range spell, we're looking at Shatter, which is 2d8 or 3d8s. It's 3d8s. 3d8s in that radius. And I believe Shatter's got a 10-foot radius. So this is a little better than Shatter or Thunderwave at the respective level.
Frog was saying wave like a sound wave from a speaker.
Yeah, no, I dig it. I understand what you were going for. It's just that still feels almost more like it's coming out from.
Yeah, that feels like it would come out of the furnace rather than kind of appearing at a point like the furnace, because then it feels like then it feels like the furnace is kind of like conjuring it on that point rather than blasting out of like the center of it. So do you want to try Thunderwave?
Yeah, I think Thunderwave is a pretty reasonable kind of shot here. And I'm actually going to open up our document from last week because I would think it'd be a really cool idea if we figured out our text, because I think we want all of the damage types here to be force damage or maybe radiant damage. I think force makes sense to a degree. And I say that here. I see a lot of people in chat talking about radiant damage. But traditionally, warlocks can be associated with like great star entities in D&D. And their Eldritch Blast, which is of this far realmsian power, is force damage. So I think I understand the force damage aspect. And actually, it's weird. I think force damage is actually a little worse than radiant damage, even though it's technically not. Because how often do you fight a creature with resistance to radiant? You fight creatures that are vulnerable to radiant. But,
Great. So let's start. I'll start getting some of this text in there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw in this text from last week. The damage type of spells cast using not the regalia.
Using the furnace.
Yeah, the furnace. Oh, is and I don't know, Frog. What do you think? Do you think radiant, or you went with force? We'll stick with force.
Yeah, let's keep it force.
But he's saying radiant and fire. That's not bad either. Give certain enemies disadvantage. Shatter gives certain
Shatter
enemies
does, but Thunderwave does not.
Thunderwave doesn't. Yeah, Thunderwave is just a wave of thunder. Oh, you know what'd be cool? Radiant or Thunder.
Or Force, you mean?
Your choice. Oh, I'm sorry, Radiant or Fire, I was going to say. Because that sounds like, that could be cool. Or, Force. I'll just say Force.
Yeah, let's go with Force, because that's what...
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense for, like, the Eldritch kind of beat.
Yeah, I agree. I also like the idea of it's literally just... Because I think it's not just, like heat and energy that's coming out. It's also, like, I picture physical, cartoony stars that are, like, actually flying and kind of bonking people a bit. Much like an Eldritch Blast. So I think the Force is justified here.
I agree. Yeah, I think Force is cool. Force Thunder, Force Fire. Yeah, I like Force. I think Force is cool. So we still have to talk about charges, how many we want, but I think that will have to do with what rarity we're going for.
Yes, and also Frog had mentioned that the choice of 6 was a choice made from kind of a more meta-mechanical point, where he didn't want the Cosmic Cannon to be used, but to still be able to use it with the Star Wave. So I think 5 for flavor is I think definitely a good starting point to kind of build around.
Thunderwave, Vortex, and so here's our last big thing here. So we have Thunderwave. It's a pretty comparable deal. It's just doing Force instead of Thunder. So I think we're in a pretty good spot here. But what are we not really hitting? It's that last ability, the Cosmic Cannon. So one of the things we could do is we could throw another spell on here that's maybe a higher level spell, maybe like a 5th level spell that uses all the charges that's very impactful. That would be a possible option.
I don't know if there's what's the sun spell that I'm thinking of that kind of feels like it would fit in here?
I don't think.
No. Maybe I'm thinking of Sunbeam, which might be too high.
Well, not only it's that 6th level, and that's a weird like ongoing thing, which is a little.
Yeah, a little bit funkier for the furnace.
Yeah, a little stranger. I mean, Cone of Cold would be a
Cone of Cold, but radiant, and also
revise that, and maybe
if we're thinking
them on death,
or if we're thinking about doing something. So, is your thought to put a? Are you thinking about putting in a 5th level spell or something kind of equivalent to that in as a replacement for Cosmic Cannon, or are you thinking about doing that and then also doing the Cosmic Cannon with the it destroys the furnace ability?
Here's what. Before we jump onto that, I'm gonna Frog something in chat I want to address in a second, but I was saying instead of the Cosmic Cannon, or we could go with the other option of expending remaining charges and Cosmic Cannon happens and the thing gets destroyed or what have you. I think that's something we need to consider is what direction we want to go with it. Do we want it to be a very high risk, it goes away and it's cool, or what? But before we do that, I see the Forgotten One saying in chat, a recharge system would be cool. Recharge is a mechanic that exists in 5th edition. It's existed in every edition. Or, I'm sorry, I can't say that for certain. It's at least existed in 5th and 4th. And the idea with recharge, for those that are unfamiliar, is at the beginning of your turn, you roll a die, like a d6, and based on the result of that roll, you see whether you either get your ability, basically you see whether you get the ability comes back, is an ability to use again. Recharge doesn't really work for players for a lot of reasons. It's a funky mechanic because it involves you having to remember. It puts the burden of you have to remember this. Additionally, it doesn't work in situations where there's some downtime. or when there's any amount of time between encounters, which does happen from time to time.
It's also a little bit abusable in some situations if you're really kind of gaming it.
Yeah, recharge is not used for any player character abilities in 5th edition, and I think there's a pretty good reason for it. Monsters use it as a way of repeatedly getting a resource back so that they remain threatening throughout the entirety of a fight. I'd be very dicey to pick that up for a player character item.
Bit reticent.
That. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think this is the hill I'd die on for that. You know, maybe in the future I'll go back on that because there'll be something that I think works really well. But I think for this one, we move forward. Farku's offering telekinesis. That's cool, but I don't think that screams Starford.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, D-Frog, I'm wondering, you're active in chat. Question: what do you think? Do you think the whole cosmic cannon stay at that same power level, but risk destroying the furnace, or maybe a different spell that doesn't destroy the furnace? Because that's where we're really at right now. At its current level of instantly knocking creatures to 0 hit points, we can't put that in DnDTime. A lot of our adventures are one combat encounter that revolves around one enemy, and being able to instantly win that, it's not fun for everyone else in the game. It might be fun for you, but it wouldn't, or for the person with the furnace. But for the rest of the players, it'd suck.
I was going to say, in the same regard, even the kind of it destroys the item to do so is still a bit kind of in that same category, because even if it's for one fight, in a long-term campaign, it's like you're going to keep playing together, and this kind of ability would be really cool and work well. But in DnDTime, where it's just this sort of one-off thing, that would kind of still make the fight a bit unsatisfying for the other people, although certainly if it's a one-time thing, it's not quite as major of a deal. I think it might be a good idea, Jeremy, to go with the level 5 spell route, unless maybe removing the insta down, replacing it with something like blindness.
Yeah, and then for I don't know. I mean, for level 5 spells, looking at like what options there are, it's a little dicey. I mean, there are some good choices in there. Immolation could make a lot of sense for the Star Furnace. Flame Strike would make a lot of sense for, I think, the Star Furnace.
Horizontal Flame Strike.
I think just Flame Strike in general would just be cool. Even Dawn, which is basically just a monstrously large sunbeam, would be really cool.
I actually really like the Flame Strike choice, personally.
I do too. That seems really on the
it's fire and radiant. It seems, well, it's going to be doing force damage, I think, regardless now. So we also, I think, can keep that in mind because of the phrasing at the end. So maybe Cone of Cold is the right choice, since it's going to be force damage.
Yeah, but the problem is, right, I want to pick... We're already a little off the track with Thunderwave, because when Frog put this item together, he came up with cool ideas for the names of the spells. Sparkle Burst, Starwave, Cosmic...
Yeah, I do like those names.
Those. And I don't want to stray too far from the feel of that. Putting the word Cone of Cold, even if we say, yep, the damage type is this, the context is just weird, because Cone of Cold has some weird effects with, like, characters.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, like, if a character dies to Cone of Cold, they're frozen solid,
okay.
As a big statue and stuff. So I think Flame Strike really works well for this. And I think it gives players a lot of choice in opening up how the ability works. One of the things that's awesome for players is when you get a magic item and you're like, this is really cool, and you want to make it your own, and you don't really know, and it's got all this flavor built into it, which is cool, but then you can't really change it. Putting a spell like Flame Strike, a player might decide that, yes, a giant beam of light shoots from the furnace in my hands into the sky and comes down upon an enemy as a laser from the heavens. Another player might say, like, I aim the furnace and fire it like a cannon, or what have you. Like Star Cannon is actually designed, right? And I think just having the spell name opens that up a little more. I'm still not super sold on the Thunderwave, but I don't think we have a better shot for like a spell like that.
Thunderwave, I think we should specify this is Thunderwave at 2nd level, yes? We're doing.
Yes.
What's the convention for phrasing on saying that you're auto upcasting?
I don't even think we need to auto upcast. I think we just say 1 charge per spell.
Oh yeah, you can do low levels. You can do low level Thunderwave. I like that too. I like that flexibility.
Yeah, making it better for lower level characters. So we saying 5 charges currently, right? We decided 5 was okay here.
Yep, because it has the pentagon kind of theming on it, which is cool.
And I think what we do here is we just nix the potential to destroy the item, because we have one of the spells that can cast costs all of its charges.
Yep.
And I don't want it to be a risk of destroying it every time you just cast its best ability. So I think we just get rid of that. Oh, actually, the item regains all charges daily at dawn. Boop. The furnace regains all expended charges daily at dawn. Cool.
Okay.
And I mean, that's basically it at this point. Now, in a different game, and here's an interesting point here, because at this point, D-Frog came up with some really cool different spells. I like them. In a regular campaign, when I could print out the spell card and give it to a player and they'd have it to look at, that'd be fine. In D&D time, it's important for us to be able to just say, look at the spell. You can look it up. It's a common thing. It is staple. There's only 1 Thunderwave in 5th edition D&D. You know, it's not something we just create. And we've cut down the whole space by half in terms of the item description. So, yeah, I'm with you, Fox. I think it's a real cool item.
Yeah, me too.
And so there's our kind of revised Star Furnace, where we've tried to hold up
the spirit.
Some of the flavor. And, you know, maybe, do we want to have etchings of sparkling shooting stars or 5 sparkling shooting stars? Right? Because
I think that's a cool little addition.
Yeah, I love this. I just think it's really cool. I love the idea of this little pentagonal box filled with the power of
I picture you kind of like holding it. It almost feels very like if I was running this item, I would probably run it like a Kamehameha wave where I like pulled it back and then just put my hands out with the furnace. I don't know. I can see this being a lot of fun to play around with. I think that's in a good spot for D&D time.
Ingram 9, did I just say it's lit? Oh boy. Fair, it is lit like a furnace. I'm smart. All right, let's move on to our next item because we just spent a ton of time on that.
Yes.
And we want to try and get through these.
On the whole, let's try and pace up a bit more.
Sugar Crush. This item was submitted by Psychopath23, otherwise known as Fluffy. We love you, Fluffy.
Indeed.
And Fluffy, you've created the Sugar Crush. I'm sorry, we didn't talk about the rarity on the other item.
Oh, yes.
This is rare. It's cast level 5 spells. It's got fair charges. I think it's low rare because a regular rare item would have 7 charges. This has 5, so we bump it down. It's
a bit sub.
It's below 450 in the bag because 450 is our staple middle of the line rare item. So it's somewhere between
which is actually where you originally intended for the item to be, which is cool.
Yeah, you were on the point. Good work.
Yes. You want to read Sugar Crush, Jeremy?
Sure. Sugar Crush. A cherry-shaped metal head with a wooden shaft. You gain a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with this magic weapon. When you kill a creature or reduce it to 0 hit points, you gain 1 hit die, as well as regain the number of hit points equal to your Constitution modifier. Additionally, when you score a critical on a creature, you regain 1 hit point at the end of each of your turns. The next 1d4 plus 1. Cool. All right. Cool.
So let's begin here. So just moving through everything, and we're going to go through our Sugar Crush Revised. We look at the first thing here and describing what type of item it is. Actually, in this item description, it was never specified what type of weapon it is, which is important to make it clear. It's important to make it clear what weapon it is, and that also has a pretty huge impact on the balance. Because say it's an optimal weapon, say like a great sword or a maul, compared to maybe something that's less optimal, like a great club, it can mean a hugely different thing. So the first thought is it's a cherry-shaped head with a wooden shaft. what were you thinking, Jeremy? I was thinking maybe a mace, maybe a club of some kind. What are your thoughts?
I immediately thought Morningstar. That just made the most sense to me. The big ball at the end of the stick. But we see in chat, Fluffy's hitting up. He wanted it to be a maul. That's fine.
Maul.
It's just going to affect where we put it in the bag. Something like if this same exact item on a great club, right, might be a low 400s, maybe even like a mid 300s item. This might be like a 325, 350 on a great club, where on a mall we're looking at probably 500. We're looking at above the 450 mark because it's better than your normal +2 item.
Yeah, and I think Sugar Crush makes sense to be a huge kind of two-handed weapon because of the word crush, and it's it's designed to smash.
So once again, you said rare. This is absolutely going to be in the rare category, being a +2 item. Oh, and Fluffy, don't you ever say sorry about this. It's all good. It's the kind of thing where by not putting that in there, that gives Pete and I the choice to. It's very easy to just say it's this, right?
Yep.
That's super easy for Pete and I to do, and it lets us fill in the bag a little better. So if you're not sure, and it could be any number of smashy, bludgy weapons, it's okay to not put in what exactly it is. That's not something that bothers Pete and I at all. So let's talk about what this item is. Once again, this cherry-shaped maul.
Yep, always this and then what it is. Just a good tip for everyone forever.
An iron head with a cherry wood shaft. Cool.
Very good.
Now, why did cherry wood? I don't know.
Nice little touch.
Cool.
It's good, and it fits in with the. It's a nice little touch. So cool. I think that's even enough flavor for this.
I mean that's a beautiful, perfect, concise flavor. By the way, Psychopath.
Succinct.
A very simple, it's a friggin' giant cherry hammer.
Yep.
Perfect.
You gain a +2 bonus to attack and damage roll made with this magic weapon. Excellent, wonderful. You used all the correct phrasing and text there. I think we're just going to change magic weapon to maul now that we know that it is maul.
I think I'm just going to leave it as magic weapon. I actually like it as.
You like magic weapon better? I like maul better. What's convention? Is it magic weapon?
I think you're right. I think convention is maul. Let's see. What would?
I mean, let me just look up. I will look it up.
Well, let me look at the Sunblade. Made with this weapon. Ha ha!
Yep.
Actually, have the word magic on there.
Not magic, just made with this weapon.
Cool. Radical. I'm liking this already.
Next. When you kill or reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you gain 1 hit die as well as regain number of hit points equal to your Constitution modifier. So hit dice are a little bit funky in DnDTime because we don't really do resting. There's been, I think, maybe 1 or 2 adventures in the history of DnDTime that have used the rest mechanic because they've been just kind of funky in the way that they worked. But for the most part, there isn't resting. So we don't really want to include mechanics that interact directly with the hit dice mechanic, just because it's not really going to become significant often. That being said, I also like the flavor here where you kill or reduce something. It's called Sugar Crush. It focuses on when you crush things, you get the benefit, which is cool. So maybe we'll cut out the first half of that, which gives the hit die, but we'll definitely keep the thing about Constitution modifier because that is, I think that's a cool mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, or we can just keep it be the hit die, have it be a little variable. So, I mean, I'm cool with it either way.
Wait. Well, also the next thing is...
We don't use hit die at all, but...
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's talk. So the next part is when you score a critical hit, you gain a hit point starting for 1d4 plus 1 rounds. As a general rule in 5th edition D&D, that 1d4 plus a variable number of rounds isn't a thing. It does exist for the spell time stop, and in my experience, that works very poorly. It just, the design isn't very rewarding, and it just, I just prefer not to do that. I think what might be a good idea for this one is just take that off and just take this critical part and add it to that first part.
Yeah,
so it's like
staple it onto the end.
Yeah, when you score a critical hit, kill or reduce a creature to 0. When you score a critical hit or reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you get this cool effect. And I see Psychopath saying, roll your hit die and regain hit points equal to that. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I think, the idea. So maybe it's a hit die plus your con modifier. I think that's what you were intending here, but the text is just, I wasn't entirely certain. So I like that idea. I think it's fine.
Yeah, and I think that makes a good compromise with what Mike's just point was, what if your con is less than 0 or is 0? In which case, this item, it opens up the room a little bit more for people who would want to use this that may not be optimized to do so.
And I see someone saying, I attack, I think it was it the Fox in the Box? It was someone very early on saying like, yes, I attack the tree until I crit to regain the hit points. Well, it's when you score a critical hit on a creature, on an attack roll against a creature, I think is attack roll against a creature or reduce a creature to
0 hit points.
Hit points. You may roll. You may spend a hit die, and regain. Not may. You regain a number of hit points.
I lay on heads the tied up enemy and then hit him over and over again with the sugar crush.
Oh.
I mean, that's just brutal.
So rather than using hit die, because hit die can be a little weird for new players, I just said 1d8. That's the average hit die for a player character class. This makes it a little better on wizards, guys. A little more overpowered on wizards and a little less good on like a barbarian, but still very good. So I'm pretty happy with this. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Fluffy, this it's all good, dude. I got what you my ear just blew out there.
Oh yeah. No worries.
Audio just wigged out.
Good call on the 1d8, Jeremy. And also, just one last note. I think it might want just some. I think it might just want some kind of phrase that makes it clear, because I think there's just a slight disconnect right now between the regaining hit points and this big maul that smashes things. So maybe I feel like I just want one phrase of flavor that implies like when you score a critical hit on an attack roll or reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you gain a sugar rush or something along those lines, just to be clear that like it's the fact that you've crushed that's causing the weapon to kind of pour you with the hit points, just to kind of make that kind of sink a bit more.
As you enter, sorry, no, not as you enter, because we don't want to use sugar rush as though it's a keyword, like rage.
Yes. I think it's just you reduce your creature to 0 hit points. You experience a sugar rush and regain a number of hit points.
I like that.
Yeah.
Since a sugar rush and regain a number of hit points, 1d8 plus your constitution modifier. Radical. I really love this.
That's done, I think.
Yeah, we hardly had to change anything here. We did rewrite a lot of stuff just for like convention's sake, but this is an example of a very succinct and like nice. It makes Pete and I's job very easy. And just so that you guys are aware, when you submit items to Bartholomew's Big Bag Bonanza, if Pete and I run into an item more like the Star Furnace, where we had to do a little bit of work to get that in the right like state for D&D time, oftentimes what we'll end up doing is we'll mark that as a come back to this item and move on to the next one, because we want to try and get through as many user submissions as we can to get them in the bag and get them rolling. And it can be some time before we end up getting back to those. So the more succinct and more you want a copy? Yeah, no problem. Absolutely, my friend.
You got it, Jeremy?
Pete, can you do it? Actually, it's a little easier.
Yeah, I get it.
What was I saying? Anyway, stuff like this, because it's so simple, straightforward, but still has a lot of that flavor coming out of it. Very good for us to dig in and easily convert over to the bag. So one last note about this item, Pete. Where do we think we put this? It's a rare magic item. For reference, a +2 generic +2 weapon sits right at 450, and that's like a +2 longsword specifically. So this is a maul,
and this is a maul, so it's still an optimal. Yeah, it's still an optimal weapon. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it was better than a. Well, I guess it is because it doesn't require.
Better,
because you need sword and board would require two. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, it's I guess it's a little bit better. So that would bump it up a bit. It also has a fairly significant upside, especially depending on the encounter. You could be healing a lot from this if it's kind of a mobby, sort of a heavy mob based encounter, or if it's one foe, you're not going to get any benefit out of it, which are both kind of equally frequent scenarios in D&D time. I would put this in the high rare tier, but I don't think it's quite out of rare tier. But I think it's pretty close.
I mean, this is probably like a mid 500s item.
The arbitrary number I had thought in my mind, which is actually how most of the items get placed, is I just kind of I'll just kind of be like 532.
Oh my god, that was exactly the number I was about to say.
Oh no shit! Yeah. Oh man, that's great. Me and Jeremy are also low key have a very strong internal clock about where we put the items that we both have kind of agreed on by doing it so much. Yeah.
You guys might not know this, but Pete is actually a Jeremy simulacrum. Pete doesn't know it either. Don't tell him.
And don't tell Jeremy that he's actually a simulacrum of the Pete simulacrum of the original Jeremy who perished long ago.
Fuck. Anyway, moving on. This is rad. I love it.
Yep, good.
Pendant of Shermouse Holmes. This is a pretty neat item. Zero G Ninja, if you're in the chat, thumbs up. You want to read this one, Pete?
Yeah, sure. I really like the this one.
It's not called the Mind Link, the Forgotten One. It's Rary's telepathic bond. Thank you very much. Continue, Pete.
The pendant of Shermouse Holmes. This small pendant made of interwoven black onyx and ruby and shaped like a small mouse allows its owner to see through its eyes and hear through its ears. Upon speaking the activation word, the small pendant comes alive and can investigate the surrounding areas in a 120-foot area, relaying everything it sees and hears back to its owner instantly. And then there's kind of a note on. It seems more of a note than the mechanic, but it's implying that it would give the player advantage on investigation checks and could be used to find things like traps, ambushes, etc.
Yeah.
I really, for one thing, I think it's just really cute. I picture the pendant when it comes to life. It's like a mouse with the little hat. What's the name? Do you know what the name for the kind of hat that Sherlock Holmes wears is?
Oh shit! I once did, but I don't.
Me too. But he's got the hat and like the monocle and magnifying glass. I picture him just kind of like rolling around, looking at stuff. I think it's a pretty cool item. So let's just start kind of moving through one step at a time. For starters, this is very clearly a wondrous item, which does not have an E in it. I am not a fool this time.
Yeah, but it is absolutely a wondrous item. And more than that, there is a series of items in 5th edition D&D that are this exact deal. And they are figurines of wondrous power. So I like this. I think this is neat. Generally speaking, the way figurines of wondrous power work is you can use them just like this. They turn into a creature, and that creature usually can help you fight. In this situation, this creature isn't for fighting. This creature is for investigating and scouting and sneaking. Don't worry about it, Max. We're all good. So I think this is where we would take our text for figurine of wondrous power and plop it in. Except we want to change some of it because obviously we're talking about Shermouse Holmes. So
indeed.
So I think I want to first of all rename this a little bit. And Zero G Ninja, if the pendant part of it was super important, let me know. This is something we don't really know when we get these items, and I don't recognize a pendant being super.
It seems more of a vehicle to get the idea you wanted across, rather than like something that was core to what the item is.
Exactly. So, figurine of wondrous power, Shermouse Holmes. A figure of wondrous power, statuette of a small beast falling fit in a pocket. So the figure important to the figure becomes a living creature. Space, blah 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 blah. Cool. So just a very simple description. Interesting thing is the space wouldn't be occupied by a creature. It doesn't have space. It doesn't become a creature. It's a mouse. I'm just going to cut that entire part out. There's no need to, just because convention says that text is there, doesn't mean it has to be there. And in our case, there's no need. The creature's friendly to you. It understands your languages. Super simple. I think if you should know commands, the creature
just thinking that.
Hides.
Yep, I was thinking the exact same thing.
So very simple. Is that correct? Oh, fleas. Is that correct? How to spell fleas?
That's what I would have thought as well. I think Google. I think Google just sometimes decides that you're talking about bugs. Like a lot of the times, it'll just be like, "No, you wanted to talk about bug fleas." Like, no, we did not.
The creature exists for duration. Figures is bigger. I don't care about that. Don't care. So let's look at this. Upon speaking the activation word, then it becomes live and affects the surrounding areas instantly. This doesn't have a duration necessarily attached to it.
I think the durations are generally in the actual animals for most of the figurines.
So let me paste the actual information in here for. I'm going to take the ebony fly. So is ebony statuette? Well, we're just going to go up here. Say this black onyx, this interwoven black onyx and ruby blank, we're called pendant, is shaped like a small mouse. And I'm just going to go right down here. And we're going to use the same text is carved in the term
statuette.
We could call it a pendant.
Well, I think it would make less sense for it to be a figurine of wondrous power if we're doing the pendant.
I see. Yeah, it's carved in the likeness of a mouse.
Can we mention a mouse with a hat and monocle and
wearing hat, monocle, and
carrying a magnifying glass?
Oh yeah, carrying
holding also would have worked as well.
I like the word carrying better. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, potatoes.
Alrighty, so instead of it can become a giant fly for up to 12 hours, we'll say. So we're just gonna get rid of that text. So we're kind of butchering this text point, but reverts to figure. Where do we say that it becomes a figure? It's up here. So you gotta speak the command word.
Hey, Jeremy, I know we've kind of gone far on this. I know we've kind of gone far on this. This route right now. But can I make I think what would be a simpler kind of a thing to do what we want it to do?
Sure.
Which would be a mouse familiar that can cast the spell Find Traps once a day. Because that seems kind of like what he wants it to do, is to look around and seek out any traps. So it would just be a familiar, and it would have like the see through its eyes and kind of go through the nose. I know we've gone pretty deep down the figurine route.
I'm digging it. And it's shaped like a small mouse. With a magnifying glass. Oh, I should probably put this down.
Oh yes.
So this is one of those situations where I grasp on something that's way too complicated, and I try and make it fit, and it's just, why even bother?
Yeah, we do that all the time.
Shrug emoji.
Yeah, that's what happens in design.
It is made of interwoven black onyx and ruby, and it's shaped like a small mouse. I think we just leave it like that. Instead of upon speaking the command word as an action, the wielder may speak. Sorry, not the wielder, you. Items always talk to you as if it's talking to you. So that you may do X, Y, and Z. So, as an action, you may speak the command word. Speak the pendant's command word.
Mm-hmm.
command word.
Yeah, that's just a phrase that they use as command word.
Causing the pen. We don't have to word small again. The pendant to animate into a to animate, gaining the statistics of a rat. Rat is a creature in the monster manual. That's why I use it. While in this, while animated, is what I'll say. Animated, it may cast the spell Find Traps once per day.
Oh yeah.
And functions as a familiar.
As per the Find Familiar spell.
As per Find Familiar spell. Also, convention is all spell names are
italicized. Is that what it is?
They're
or lowercase. Yeah.
That's all. Give player advantage on investigation checks. They can use find traps, ambushes, etc. So I think that's great. I think that's super simple. And find traps, nice and simple. We kind of hit nail on the head here, and it's got some extra usability in that it is a familiar, which could be a ton of fun.
Yep. And can we just put a specification that if the familiar dies, it returns to a pendant?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If the familiar is reduced to 0 hit points, it reverts to its pendant form and may not be used again until the next dawn. Interesting thing about this item, and this is going to be weird, but I don't think this is an attunement item.
Nope, I don't think so either. Same page.
And I think uncommon's great.
And I think I think it's an uncommon item. I think it falls, kind of towards the middle of uncommon. It's very kind of niche. I mean, it gives you the Find Familiar, which is a simple first level effect, which will have a more kind of all-purpose scouting effects. But the Find Traps is very niche to kind of certain dungeons and situations. So I think it falls right in the middle.
Fark is saying maybe it'd be cool if you couldn't be surprised. I think that'd be fair, but then we're getting at like weapon of warning kind of level.
Yeah.
And then we're getting like
just another thing to think about. And...
Yeah, I think I like it like this. I'm pretty happy with it here. Now, do we have? I don't think we have. No, we don't have extra spaces, so we leave those. This is great. I'm really happy with it here. Pete, where do you think this is? The Forgotten Ones shipping out numbers at 175.
173. I would have gone with the arbitrary number I would have picked for fun would have been
144.
Holy shit! I'm not even joking, Jeremy. It was 144. That's
Pete. I'm too good.
Holy shit. Okay, well. Guys, I mean, I know you may not believe that. Okay, well, it was 144. All right.
Anyway, let's move on. This is a cool item. I love it. Pretty rad. Blowing Pete's mind here with my telepathy. Fark is saying more rare. I don't think it's even rarer than that. I think this is fine.
No, I feel good about that 144. So let's go on to the next one. Oh, one side note. Oh, go ahead. You too.
Discussion in chat going on between, I see Fox and Max kind of going back and forth about the items based on other things, like fate, as an example, or some other existing deal. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about plagiarizing your items for DnDTime. Like, really, it's cool. Dungeons and Dragons was based on plagiarism. Like, I say plagiarism, but like, so much of what's in D&D came from other role-playing games and other whatevers, and all of that came from different mythology, like magical banner, and that's the item that's being discussed. A magical banner that empowers allies. That's something that's gone back forever. That's like, you find that kind of story is a very broad concept. Now, if you use the exact same name, maybe that's something to think about, and maybe that is an actual historical thing, in which case, yeah, sure, use it.
Yeah, like the guy Volga is famous. So like, even though that was I think a few people were mentioning that was from Fate and used in that, it's also just a just a famous legendary weapon.
Yeah, it's in Fate, Final Fantasy, it's in everything.
Yeah, lots of stuff. And also, one note I wanted to make was just that the phrase "once per day" is interesting there, because generally speaking, you want to say things recharge at dawn, but because it's specifically an ability that's being applied to a monster, that's actually how it's phrased on monsters.
Exactly.
Which is just a quick side note on convention and why we did that there. But generally, you want to mention that things recharge at dawn rather than saying that they do once a day.
Well, we'll get to that, Max, when we get to that in. But before we do that, maybe we should take a moment, Pete and I, so we can refresh our cups, refresh our drinks. I know I'm all spent.
Yeah,
let's take a minute. We'll be right back, everybody. Stay tuned. We'll be back in like 5. It's like 3 minutes and 42 seconds, I think, actually, is the timer exactly. So we'll see you in 3 minutes and 42 seconds. welcome back, my friends. How are you all?
We have returned.
Oh, geez, Pete. Are you okay? Are you with me, bud?
There is no Pete, only Zool. I recently watched Ghostbusters. Welcome back. We're going to go on to our next item. Want to just hop right in?
Yeah, I've got it right open here. So let's take a peek.
I read the last one, so you want to do this one?
Sure. The Ashen Rod, submitted by Mr. Plunder. I'm not sure if you're here. You might be working, but we love you, bud. And we super appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let me read this item. The Ashen Rod. This ashen quarterstaff appears to be made of charred wood. When wielded, it allows the character to gain the following benefits. Advantage on stealth checks in low light areas. Speaking the command word causes a slight haze of smoke, or haze by smoke that pours from the staff. 2. The ability to cast the level 1 spell Burning Hands per the spell DC is set at 13. 3 charges. The caster may once per day become a wisp of smoke and move as the Misty Step spell for up to 15 minutes. This item regains 1d3 charges every day at dawn, and if the character uses all the charges, the staff will explode in a fiery explosion as a fireball spell cast at 3rd level. This rod also deals additional 1d6 fire damage and is considered magical for the purposes of spell resistance and damage reduction.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, I have a quick question. Before we go too deep on this item, unless you are here, Plunder, I was going to say, would you like to just maybe talk about this one and then keep going so we can get to some of the people who are hanging out and get kind of like live feedback on their stuff? Or do you want to go through and really do this one out?
I think it's a good idea. So the first thing to talk about this item is it's in a lot of different directions. I actually love the flavor of it. I love the concept of this half burned up quarterstaff, and I even like the abilities. I like the idea that it helps you in stealth by creating like smoke. That sounds like if I were going to make this into an item, or when I make this into an item later, for D&D time, that would be like the Pass Without a Trace spell with a little more flavor. The Burning Hands spell, that's just burning hands with the DC. That's awesome. Farku's saying it perfect in chat, not Misty Step, but Gaseous Form is exactly the option for that third idea, becoming the Wisp Smoke. Having charges, this is a charge-based item that deals damage, and we have a template for that at the bottom. So all this is a matter of taking that template, sticking it on, and replugging things in, keeping the flavor more or less the same. I really like this item. I think it's really cool.
I do too.
It's just a matter of it would take some effort for us to really revamp it, right? Yeah, exactly, right? Farku in chat saying fog cloud. Yeah, is it fog cloud for the advantage in low light and the haze? Is it Pass Without a Trace? Is it fog cloud and Pass Without a Trace? I don't know. It'd just be an issue of us putting it all together. And then Plunder has it set it rare. I think with those spells, Pass Without a Trace, fog cloud, gaseous form, we could put this in rare.
Yeah, it's probably. I was going to say it might be on the.
We could even put this in uncommon, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're saying that like it's almost a bad thing. We love uncommon items. Those are the items we want the most. Another thing. If we look at items and they just seem way too powerful, a lot of times we'll skip those because we're not in need of like high 500s, low 600s, or higher level items. We really need low level items. Those are the ones that people pull the most out of the bag. So this is the kind of thing that we would absolutely keep the charges low, keep whatever DCs are necessary low, and put this in probably. I don't know, Pete. I think we're gonna totally miss up at this point, but I'm thinking 223.
I hadn't thought of a number yet.
Yeah, it's a number I just pulled out of my butt.
So,
but
I mean that sounds pretty reasonable to me. And just a side note just another note on convention for everyone. Generally, we'd probably put the thing about the rod dealing fire damage at the beginning of it. And actually, I think the phrase about is magical for the purposes of overcoming spell resistance and damage reduction, while the correct phrasing for that is unnecessary because it's a magical thing that's already enchanted to do other things, so it just kind of has the magic on it.
And actually, Farku asking, where can I find these templates, yo? That's a great point. We should make those available. I'm going to get on that. we have some common phrasing available in our Bartholomew's Guide to Enchanting.
Yeah, it's a little bit more vague, but we could get the exact things up on the.
Yeah, that seems like a good project for me to get through this week and get those up there so you guys can all have all the templates. Yeah, Shiba, I think it would make our lives a lot easier.
It would be, for sure. It would be. It would, yes. Cool, so that's the Ashen Rod.
Yeah, we'll come back to this one at another time. I'm just going to highlight it in yellow so I don't accidentally skip it in the future. And let's go down to the Horn of Dimitri. Fox in the Box, I see you in chat.
Yes. Hello, Fox. So let me take this one away. So this one was submitted, as we already said, by Foximus. It is designed as a rare item. And what it does is the Horn of Dimitri is made of a polished white stone that's rough to the touch. The inside is hollow and resembles the horn of a large beast. When its user blows it, they summon a swarm of tiny gargoyle brood to do your bidding. The gargoyle children, presumably Dimitri's kids, will do your bidding until dismissed or killed. All right, so off the bat, there's some cool flavor here, and it's kind of this horn that just summons a swarm of tiny gargoyles to kind of fly around and kind of do what you tell them to do, which I think there are definitely some spells in the game and stuff that can mimic that. The first kind of, and the major issue that I see with this off the bat is it doesn't actually specify any mechanics.
Well, interesting, right?
Or a little bit vaguely. It kind of implies.
It's interesting because there are two ways to go about this kind of ability. We could say it uses like a spell and then label the spell and whatever. Or we could say as an action. So here's how I think if I were going to revise. So I'm going to just toss it down here so we're looking at it. Boop. And we're down. So instead of when the user blows it, as an action, you may blow the horn. Probably, and summon a swarm of tiny gargoyle brood. I think I'd use the word like broodlings just to emphasize that they are tiny. And
nicelings.
Yeah, which use these stats of a swarm of ravens. Now, I believe those are actually capitalized for swarm of ravens. So the reason, and I think we can get rid of, I think we can keep tiny for that, because tiny defines how big they are. And I think swarm of ravens is a pretty good kind of middle ground when you're looking at swarms. They're not particularly powerful, but they can fly, just like our gargoyle broodlings would be. Now, maybe if I were going to really spend a lot of time looking at this, I would go on, I'd open up my monster manual and I'd look at gargoyles. And I'd say that gargoyles have resistance to a bunch of effects, and they have immunities to poison. So because we don't want to do this damage resistance too much, because that would make maybe them too powerful, and swarms already have resistance to a lot of damages, maybe it'd be cool to say that we'd add in the stats of a swarm of ravens with resistance to, or immunities to poison damage. Immunity to poison damage. That might be just a cool way of putting it on there. I'm not sure exactly the way I necessarily do it, but or phrase it.
Yeah, and this will just function like a summoned creature, and I think it needs to be specified. Do they just follow your? So yeah, I think it would just no. I think that there's no need for specification. I take it all back.
Well, I think we didn't specify that they. Oh yeah, so it says the gargoyle broodlings. So again, we're going to capitalize all creature names. Bloodlings, broodlings.
Bloodlings.
Not original Mar Banya. I think that's the correct way to pronounce that. Welcome and thank you for following, my friend. We appreciate your support.
Oh, I didn't see. Oh, now I see it. Thank you very much.
The gargoyle.
Thank you very much.
And this is where Fox put in some interesting flavor. So presumably Dimitri's kids. If you aren't familiar, Dimitri is a character from an original character created by Foximus. And so this is something that's really kind of funky for Pete and I, because this doesn't keeping something like that in doesn't make sense to someone
who doesn't have that context.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd actually put in here the spawn of an ancient and powerful gargoyle, Dimitri, or gargoyle named Dimitri. Instead of do your bidding, generally speaking, the context is obey your commands. Obey your commands until.
I'm gonna get the exact phrasing there.
Yeah, and there's some more context about. Yes, and then once you have blown this horn, once you have used this ability, it may not be used again until the next dawn. Very important thing to put there. Otherwise, I spend 10 minutes blowing this horn until I have
an army.
100 broodlings. Lol, that would be hilarious. 600 sworn righteous. One other little tidbit to note. One thing that kind of wigged me out, and this is a nitpick, is this horn is made of polished white stone that is rough to the touch. First, I'm going to use that is instead of that's. And that's a little just polished and rough, or just a weird. It's a weird juxtaposition. I don't know if it's necessarily like bad, because I get the idea of it looking polished. So maybe this. Yeah. So I'd say this white stone horn. No, this. I don't know what to say here.
I'm sorry. I was focused on trying to get that wording from before. Sorry. I think. Oh yeah, I was thinking that maybe just this horn is made of.
This horn appears
as polished white stone, but is rough to the touch.
Exactly.
No, Fox says just take out the rough part.
But I kind of like.
I kind of like it. I think it makes an interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It just, you got to be a little finicky. You got to be a little careful with that kind of language, right? Because where it says it's this, but it's also this. So I guess the next question. So this is obviously not a martial weapon longsword. This is a wondrous item. And I think Foximus hit the nail on the head with rare. Summoning is something we don't frequently use here in DnDTime.
Indeed.
In this case, this item was pretty easy to change to, make good for DnDTime. I think being a very concise, straightforward design, it was easy for us to, make it work for DnDTime. But a lot of summoning spell items, especially if they're more complicated, are things that we're just going to skip over. To be frank. Yep. Summoning is something we do not want to do a lot of in DnDTime. So if you're going to put in a summoning item, have it be an item that's really got a lot of good flavor to it, and try and keep it very concise. Because summons just add a big level of complication. If it summons anything that isn't in the monster manual, that's not in the, not even the monster manual, if it's not in the SRD, system reference document, which is free and integrated in Roll20, then it's not going to fly. Like, if this said, you summon a tiny Oblex, dude, you'd need the book to do that. It's so hard to get it rolling. It's just not something we would want to do. And I know it's funny because I mentioned summoning Oblex last week, but bad design on my part. I make mistakes too. Flannel Pug, welcome. What did you miss? Flannel Pug,
hello.
Everything. Everything's gone. The world ended while you were asleep. Sorry.
DnDTime is done. That's not true. But the phrasing on that, Jeremy, I don't know if we want to actually go through and change it all right now, but it's basically the summoned creatures are friendly to you and your companions. Roll initiative for the summoned creatures as a group, which has its own turns. They obey any verbal commands that you issue to them. If you don't issue any, in parentheses, no action required by you. If you don't issue any commands to them, they defend themselves from hostile creatures, but otherwise take no actions.
Okay.
Which we could, I think, put in on.
So obey any verbal commands from you. And yeah, I don't know what goes after that. Let's just highlight that for now.
We can just mention that we'll change that afterwards, so we can move on. But overall, it's cool. Yeah, I like the way you built that. I probably would have gone with more of a charge-based horn that did like familiar-y things. Would have been like the way I would have built that.
That's going the same direction though, like I was with the wondrous figurine of wondrous power. It was just it'd be too much for what is a fairly simple effect.
Yeah.
Regardless, let's jump down. Oh, attunement. This item's attunement.
Oh yeah.
That's it. Why is it attunement? It just is. In other games, like in a long-term campaign, this probably wouldn't be an attunement item. But in DnDTime, big, powerful effects are attunement. And summoning a swarm, which has resistance to most damage anyway, that also has immunity to poison, has the potential to really skew certain battles and certain challenges, especially since the swarm can fly.
Yeah.
So, anywho, those are just reasons this is an attunement item for us. Moving along to the next item. Oh, by the way, thank you, Foxmas, for your submission, and thank you, everyone else.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. We should always say that. Thank you, everyone.
We super appreciate it. Foxmas, don't you say sorry? I loved your item. That's why we made it.
For sure.
Oh, maybe she's saying sorry about destroying the world. Foxmas, why?
Oh, okay.
Anyway. The Whip of Bitter Weeping.
Yes.
This one submitted by Ian Grimm9. Ian, I think I saw you in the chat earlier. Pete, you want to read this one?
Sure, I can do that. The Whip of Bitter Weeping requires attunement. This whip, woven from the branches of enchanted weeping willow branches, has crushed gemstones embedded that remind one of teardrops. It was a gift from a powerful lumberling wizard. You gain a +2 to attack and damage rolls made with the whip. As a bonus action after hitting a creature, you can cast Bane against a creature without using concentration, against the creature you attacked. The creature remains under the effects of Bane for 1 minute or until you attack a second creature with the whip. So this is the Whip of Bitter Weeping. So let's just start moving through one step at a time. For starters, is a whip a martial or a simple weapon? I'm ashamed. But
Whip.
If you know in chat before I can find it, please let me know. But I'm going to find it real quick.
So we will let chat figure it out. Marshall, we're here in Marshall. Thank you, chat. Maddie Morris and the Forgotten One coming to rescue. By the way, howdy, Maddie.
Hi.
And yes, Ingram as well is here. Excellent. So this item's awesome. First of all, your flavor, spot on, super concise, bada boom. Excellent. That's all. Just cannot say enough. Great flavor and simple. You, in a matter of 2 sentences, you got a very deep effect across, which I think I totally get what you were going for. I hope so. I feel like I do.
Yeah, no, I do.
I've cleaned up the text
100%.
a little bit. This whip is woven from magical weeping willow branches embedded with crushed gemstones reminiscent of teardrops. So this next part, a gift from a powerful lumberling wizard. That's a little funky. I'm not sure what to do there. I'm not sure. I guess we can just leave it like that for now. But it's the kind of thing where it wasn't a gift in this context, right? It was something else.
How about if we want to keep that flavor in? How about we say it was gifted to Bartholomew by a powerful lumberling wizard?
Yes, I like that. So,
okay.
So you can go ahead and fix that.
Yeah, I got it.
So you get a +2 attack using this. So we have text. I'm just scrolling back up to where we had our other plus item, so I can get the exact same correct text. Boop. Oh, I pulled from the wrong part. Which I think it's the exact same. Scroll back down to the Whip of Bitter Weeping. I'm going to stop saying that, jeez. You get a +.
Instead of the whip, we're going to go with
I got it.
This weapon. I got it already.
Well, I pulled down the full text.
Wait, what?
Before it. It's here now, Pete. I just copy and pasted in the text for a second.
Oh, okay, yeah. Check.
As a bonus action. So I think it's an interesting thing because as a bonus action after hitting a creature, that's where it gets a little interesting. Maybe we should say once per turn when you hit a creature, because the idea of having the bonus action, a conditional bonus action there is just a little weird. In that it's not that it's weird, it's that it could be confusing for newer players. For someone who's very familiar with D&D, I think that's like pretty good, like perfect. But for folks that may be a little bit less familiar, I think we'd want to go with so once per turn when you hit a creature with this weapon. We want to specify with this weapon because otherwise it's as long as you have the weapon.
If you're attuned to the whip, you can do this with anything.
You may cast the Bane spell, again lowercase Bane, against that creature.
Against that creature.
Against that creature.
And then I think, end of the sentence.
Yeah, this casting of the spell does not require concentration. Now, that exact text, I just pulled that out of my butt. That's probably not important. And again, this is information that was already in here, right? I'm just kind of rephrasing some stuff to bring it into a standardized kind of format. There's no concentration. Exactly.
Yeah, Ingram was thinking no concentration was if the whip was actually casting the spell. Agreed, and I think it works. And
I think it works even better, right? That you're not using any of your action economy. Because one of the problems with putting bonus actions on items is it's further limiting what people can do. I think having the Bane affecting one creature, I think only that against that creature, whatever. What was I saying? Putting bonus actions makes it weird for certain classes, like say a rogue. A rogue might really want to use this item. I don't remember if whip is finesse, but I think it is. And putting that on a bonus action means that rogue can't hide now, can't use their hide action, which is kind of core to a lot of rogues. Couldn't dash or disengage. Well, no, that's the key.
Yeah, Parker. There's a caveat for that at the end. And I think
go ahead.
I don't think let's just continue to go through it. Creature remains under the effects of Bane for 1 minute. I think you can change from 1 minute. I think you just say remains under the effects of Bane until you or
no,
the effects of the spell.
1 minute.
Well, I think it would be implied by the inherent duration of the Bane spell, since we already specified it, was my thought.
Okay.
I think my only issue with this, as it stands right now, is the fact that you're going to be constantly whipping things. If they're up against one foe, or just since it's happening every turn, I would maybe like a caveat that maybe like once there's a successful save, it doesn't happen, or like it just seems like a lot to have to save every turn to have to add this extra save onto the weapon.
A different creature with the. So yeah, that's a good point. One of the big issues that you run into with these kind of items is like how much more bookkeeping is it adding to running the game? And
that is a pretty significant amount.
Yeah, so I think
Bane does have a save, Farku. It's a wisdom save.
Absolutely.
And on the same regard, we also need to specify a DC for that save.
The DC. No, that's not the correct phrasing. Using a spell save DC of 13. I'm going to say 13.
13 was also what I was thinking. So
the casting's not required. Pete, it was like we're insane. No.
I mean that's just a lot of
item design. Spell that requires concentration and
it's a cha save. My bad.
Once a creature succeeds on a saving throw against this effect, it becomes it is immune until the next dawn. I'm going to say that there is like a language for that. It comes from a dragon's frightful presence.
Yep.
Which, geez, where do I?
I have that actually on the fear that we used for our recent.
Yeah.
I have that phrasing on the fear from our recent DnDTime adventure. But
saving throw at the end of turn. In effect. Okay, so this is how it works. So we just paste this in. If a creature's saving throw is successful, or the effect ends for it, the creature is immune to the whip's bane effect. Until for the next 24 hours. The next 24. All right, I like this ability. So,
yeah.
Nice and simple. I also like that it kind of incentivizes you to keep attacking the same creature, because if you stop, the bane effect ends and the creature that you had baned is no longer going to be baned, or is immune to the effect now, as per that last little caveat.
Indeed.
I love this. This is a +2 item, so this definitely falls under the rare category, which I think where you had it. Definitely an attunement item. Yep, you had exactly as rare.
100%.
This is pretty good. One of the things
this is a
we have
powerful
the DC,
effect.
We have the DC as 13. We may want to put that as 15. I'm not sure. Normally, rare items have a DC of 15. Go ahead, Pete.
I was just saying, Farku mentioned, I feel like you made it more complicated. Yeah, I mean, we did decidedly make it more complicated, but it was kind of necessary to make it function in the context of DnDTime and just kind of for all the caveats of the item to be addressed.
Exactly. So I think the real question is, normally convention would say a rare item has a spell save DC of 15. That's just how these items tend to work. That being said, this isn't just a spell item. This is a weapon. So I think using 13 is fine. In terms
especially
of
when you're using it a lot, like.
Yeah, exactly. Frequent, no limits to cast. I think 13 is fine as well. Farku, we have your approval. Thank you, my friend. And yeah, I say where would I put this?
I would put this in the high rares. I would even consider putting it on the bottom of very rare.
Yeah, I think I'd keep it in rare. But this would be like, do you have a number in mind, Pete?
I'll throw one out there. It was 587.
I had 76.
Yeah. What you gonna do? We can't get them all.
Oh well. Our next item. Oh, thank you, Ingram, for your item. That was actually, I really like that one a lot. I like that way.
I did as well. There was also a very good kind of, just a design note, a very good kind of merging of what the flavor and the effect. Like, it feels, I get the sense it's like a weeping willow tree. It's a whip. It, like, you know, it just curses things and it just makes things like bad over and over again. It has that kind of like sadness, that eternal sadness that you'd expect from a willow.
It's the opposite of joy. It's going to beat the sadness into you.
Yeah, it's very
beat the despair into you.
That would be the worst item for Joy to have.
I would love it. We should get. Oh my god, I hope Joy gets it. Anyway, moving down to our next item, submitted by Dog Scientist, aka.
Want to read this one, Jeremy?
The Cat Ronomicon. I love
this one. Cracked me up. Yeah.
This is one of those. There are a couple items in here that we read, and we're just like, oh my god, this is a beautiful.
Yeah, it's just very funny.
The Cat Ronomicon is a large book with thousands of pages within. Its cover is tattered by what seem to be cat claws. It smells vaguely of catnip. When a character opens this book, they read the names of millions of cats of all ages, even ones in the future. Make a DC 10 intelligence check when opening the book and read the Catmancer's list. On a success, you may cast a cat-themed spell of your choice. This spell may only be one that you know. If you do not know any, you fail to save. On a failed save, you create an effect off the sorcerer's Wild Magic Surge table. Make this effect cat-themed as well. All right, this one is one of those items that I love the idea of the Cat Ronomicon. It's
a very good name, very funny.
Of the item. It's
very DnDTime.
Book. Yeah, exactly. We love items that are very DnDTime. And this is one of the ones that would require a lot of work to get into like a usable place for D&D time. But because it's so D&D time, I think I'd just do it. Like, this isn't one of those items that I think I'd just skip and come back to later. I'd actually like sit down and put it together. So the first thing is, I think, and Flannel Pug, let me know in chat, but I think the vibe you're going for isn't that there is going to be a series of new spells that are specifically cat spells, but that your next spell becomes cat themed. So if you cast Big B's Hand, it becomes, I don't know, something cat related.
Like a giant cat paw that like.
I was thinking of a big cat mouth.
If you cast Odaluke's Resilient Sphere, it's a big ball of yarn. Like.
So is that what you were going for? Because that's the vibe I was getting. Another thing is, I'm looking at the flavor text here, and we have about 4 sentences of flavor text here, but I think we can boil that down into probably 1. So this is obviously a wondrous item. Wondrous item, and so the Catronomicon is a large book, which.
Oh wait, it would be this book.
Oh. This large book.
Yep.
Oh, I won't even say the Catronomicon, because you know it's a Catronomicon.
Yeah, you already know.
And I think I like to keep the very first sentence a little short. So, smells vaguely of catnip. Its cover is tattered by an eternity of kneading. Is that the card where it's spelled kneading?
I do not know. It might be with an A.
Yeah. Yep. An eternity of kneading. I'll say of scratches.
Yeah, getting closer to what the original was.
Is eternity correct? Yeah, of scratches.
Maybe countless.
There we go.
Yeah.
By countless cat scratches.
And I think I think that's enough. I think just countless cat scratches is
I think.
Oh, you want the? Yeah, I mean, I guess
the name.
I do like that.
The names of all cats, now and for forever. Just a very simple, goofy phrase.
So, Jeremy, because the Flannel Pug has given us permission to slaughter this item, would you like to make? He's given a specific. Feel free to slaughter it. Would you like to just make it a simple common item that flavors your spells as cat spells, since we haven't done a common item yet?
I would love that.
Okay.
While you wield this, I'd even be happy to call this like a +1 spellcasting focus.
Oh, I'm even into that. Yeah.
And then call it an uncommon item, because I don't think we need so many commons. We want those uncommon.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a good call.
So I'm sorry. God, what is the spellcasting focus?
I'll go look it up. And you get that phrasing for the cat change, and I'll find the.
Oh, there's no phrasing for the cat change. Are you kidding me?
Oh no, I'm saying you just start writing whatever that is, and I'll get the.
I got it already.
You were actually right. While you were holding this book, you get a +1.
Except the book. Boop. You get a +1 to spell attack rules. In addition, you don't ignore half cover. But in addition, all spells you cast using this book become cat themed,
which I think is good enough.
Discretion. Very simple.
GM discretion, everyone, is a cover-all term you can put on an item that you want to do more than is in the rules of D&D possible.
I'll say at the GM's discretion, at the DM, because Dungeon Master. We're not talking about Game Masters. At the DM's discretion. I love this. It's just a simple like freaking cats. I think what might be fun. No, I think it's cool to be like this. I like the Wild Magic Surge idea, but
Matty Morgs. Yeah, it's up there with plot putty. Yeah, just a nice coverall for messing with your ideas.
I also love it and want it. Now, Pete,
yeah, same.
Uncommon magic item. Where would you put this?
I would put it. Let's do it at the same time and see how close we get.
So, ready?
Yep. 3, 2, 1. 137.
152. 137.
I ducked down below a little bit because it's basically just a +1 weapon, but I think of a +1 spellcasting implement as not being as catch-all useful as a +1 weapon. So that's
You're right. You're right. Okay, so
I mean, we're in the same range.
Below hundreds.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's the kind of item that I don't know. I would be very happy to get if I pulled low.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff too. But yeah, I think that's done.
Fark, you got 137 too. Pete, you and Barker, you stole my telepathic bond. Anyway, let's move on to our next item here. Rule breaker. So at this point, we've been trekking through this for a little while. How far have we gotten? It looks like we're about halfway through by pages. Meaning there's going to be a bunch of items we didn't get to. We're going to take the time probably after rule breaker here to read through all the items, just to for everybody who's put an item in, we want to make sure your stuff gets out there a little bit. And then Pete and I, probably off stream, are going to finish up these items. That, or maybe we'll find some time to do this again. We'll talk about that a little bit, though. I think Pete and I have some sort of announcements to make at the end of the show regarding our intentions to maybe revise some of our stream schedule a little. We haven't talked about it in a lot of detail, but maybe just put out there that we're going to be changing some. Anywho, let's talk about Rule Breaker. Rule Breaker submitted by Max Meister. Pete, you want to take a hit at this, or
sure. I got it. This iridescent bladed dagger looks very ceremonial in appearance and has incredible powers of negating most magic and spells in living beings. This +2 dagger ignores the target's AC bonus from Mage Armor, Shield, and Shield of Faith when determining if it hits. If a creature with said spells active on them is hit by this weapon, the spell automatically ends. If a target creature is using concentration on a spell and is hit with this weapon, they automatically lose concentration and end their spell. No con save is made. Take 1d10 in bonus damage, 2d10 if it's a crit, and temporarily severs the target's ability to use magic, rendering them unable to cast any spell or use magic items until the end of your next turn. If the target is under the effect of a spell that benefits them but was cast by someone else, there's a 50% chance to remove the spell effect on them, determined by a roll, possibly max notes, ending the spell entirely if they were the only target of it. All right, so let's start hopping through one at a time. I see, Jeremy, you've already specified the weapon there, so we have a dagger. It's a simple weapon, and we'll determine rarity at the end. And so we're starting out with the flavor. Max, you crushed your this. I think there's only been 2 thises so far. So we have this iridescent bladed dagger. And Jeremy, we're just going to make a few cleanups here that Jeremy is doing already here, and he's rephrased it to this iridescent dagger appears ceremonial in nature and has incredible anti-magical properties. Just a slight rephrasing.
Oh, incredible is a word I'm not totally on. I'm a little iffy, but otherwise, I love the idea of this kind of shimmering iridescent dagger. I dig it.
Yeah.
And I like the ceremonial aspect. I think that's a really good touch to this, right? Just using the word ceremonial makes me think that this is some ancient thing.
Yeah.
Just using the word ceremonial.
Like, I've already started building a story around the fact that it's a ceremonial dagger. In my brain, I'm already starting to think things like, oh, well, if it's a ceremonial dagger, then it belonged to a culture that had, in particular, vendettas against the use of magic and things like that. So it's cool.
Yep. So let's go back up to where we have +2 ability.
So we already have.
Let me scroll back.
Just going to change this +2 dagger and just change it to.
I already have the text. I'm going to copy and paste it.
Cool.
You get a +2 bonus to a text. Oh, so we don't use a space between the flavor text and the other thing, but that's fine. I like that you did that in this case, because it just helped us to read it. But in our final version, we wouldn't put the space there.
Yep.
Line break, I mean. You get a +2 bonus to attack damage rolls. Weapon.
And
So
then
then
it says,
point, which ignores, or
I think we can even start a new sentence. Just attacks made with this.
Yep, I like that as well. Made using this weapon, bypass or ignore probably.
Yeah, I think ignore is the right word.
Bonuses to armor class from magical from spells or other magical effects. Spells or other magical effects. So this is actually a really important thing to note because, and we put the other word, other magical effects on there, because certain creatures have abilities which are magical effects that increase your armor class. Here's a great example. So if I look up the, I believe this guy has it. No, he doesn't. Son of a gun. There are some demons that have it.
Well, let's look at I think a very simple example is a creature that is wearing +1 magic armor.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
That +1 bonus wouldn't apply. It would just act as whatever armor it was against this dagger. And I think that this first effect, I actually really like this first effect. I think it's interesting, and I think it also ties in really nicely with the theme of Rule Breaker. You are ignoring something, like you're not playing by the expected things that someone would want you to, like their shields just don't apply to your dagger, which I think fits the flavor very nicely there.
Yep. So the next part, if a creature with said spells active on it is hit by this weapon, the spells automatically end. I think that's one we can kind of skip because I think we're going to cover that later with concentration.
Yes.
Now, mage armor isn't concentration, but I think in this regard, either we make this the core effect that it just totally screws up shields and basically the shield spell, or we make it more of an all-purpose anti-magic. And I think we want to
make it more of a catch-all, so that way it feels a little bit more consistently useful, rather than if you just happen to go against something that has those specific spells.
Yeah, precisely.
Works like in, I think in a long-form campaign, making specific spells like that, it's a little bit more fun because you can kind of plan like, oh, I know this guy has this ability, so I'll bring Rule Breaker because I know he's going to do that. But in D&D time, it's kind of a grab bag, and you don't have that kind of layer of strategy. So precisely.
And the feature I was thinking of is called, I think it's called Fiendish Resilience, but I cannot remember for the life of me any creatures that have it. So if you guys can find Fiendish Resilience and let me know, hey, Jeremy, it's this item, hit me up. Ha! It's called Fiendish Blessing. It's the Cambion has it. There we go. Where it adds its armor class to its charisma to its armor class. That is exactly the kind of item a thing that this would buy. So that's just another cool additional thing to add. Anyway.
All right. Next, we have, if the creature is using concentration on a spell and is hit with this weapon, they automatically lose concentration and their spell, no con save is made. Take 1d10 in bonus damage, 2d10 as a crit, and temporarily severs the target's ability to use magic, rendering them unable to cast any spell or use magical items until the end of your next turn. That is an extremely powerful effect. I mean, obviously, specifically against magic users, but magic users aren't so uncommon that isn't a really huge impact ability.
I don't know. The problem I have with this, with that particular aspect, is you look at this item, and what this item does, and this is what it's supposed to do, but as it stands, it trivializes anyone who concentrates on spells.
Yep.
It trivializes a threat that relies on spellcasting. And I think being very powerful against that threat is good. Trivializing it is not as good. So honestly, one thing Farku's saying, take off the bonus damage. I actually kind of would go the opposite direction, right? I would prefer that this just did extra damage against a a target concentrating on spell, or maybe gave them disadvantage on their concentration check. That would be another option that is pretty good.
Yeah, Farku actually also recommended the disadvantage on a concentration check, which I personally prefer. Yeah, I actually personally prefer that route, and to cut the damage. But I could be convinced either way.
Well, the big thing. So let's.
And also, let's also address temporarily severs the target's ability to use magic, rendering them unable to cast any spell or use magic items until the end of your next turn. I personally think that that's just kind of too harsh altogether.
Yeah, for D&D time, it's too powerful. In a more nuanced campaign, with like more intrigue maybe and lots of enemies and fights, that would be more reasonable. But in D&D time, oftentimes we have one big enemy, and so it doesn't work here. It's not that the concept is necessarily bad
agreed
or unworkable. It's just for our purposes, that's got to go. So,
yeah, Max Measure says, yeah, I meant the second effect is OP. Feel free to heavily nerf it in some ways. We shall.
Yeah, Max, you were saying in chat you were all worried about us getting this item. Honestly, it's pretty good.
No, it's in good shape.
So, effects. Attacks made using this weapon ignore bonuses to armor class from spells or other magical effects. And if a creature hit by this by an attack from this weapon is, that's just going to be a new sentence.
I was gonna creature but is concentrating on a spell.
Concentrating on a spell.
I think it can just be concentrating, yeah?
No, because there are other...
Is concentrating a keyword that I think it only applies to like focusing on magical things, right?
Yeah.
So I think
there
concentrating
are a few other weird contexts. A creature hit by an attack from this weapon when a creature hit by an attack from this weapon would make a concentration check due to the attack, it rolls that check with disadvantage.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That text sounds pretty good to me, I think.
Yeah. I think there might be one.
Oh, I see. Farku's got the actual text from. Thank you, Farku. I'm going to use that actually. When you damage a creature that is concentrating on a spell, that creature has typing disadvantage on the saving throw it makes to maintain its concentration. Perfect.
Great. And so we're going to do that in place of, I think, this whole chunk here. So we got that. And then the last part is if the target is under the effect of a spell that benefits them, but was cast by someone else, there's a 50% chance to remove the spell's effect on them, ending the spell entirely if they were the only target of it.
You know what I think would be cool? Allow the dagger to like cast dispel magic.
Maybe a one a day?
I think that'd be a really cool other option, right? Because what if you come up to like a door enchanted by magical protection? You'd want to be able to like get rid of the magical effect there, but nothing in here says it can do that. And I think the dispel magic spell, that makes sense, right? At least to me. Maybe not even once a day. Maybe as a ritual. We use the ritual keyword. And that way that kind of ties into the ceremonial feature, right?
I think that's interesting. I've never seen that applied to a non-ritual spell before, which is the flannel plug. I stab the door.
I kind of actually cast the spell. It's counterintuitive. Yeah, I see that part. Good, fair.
I don't know. I don't think it's that far off. I think that's a pretty good idea, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm just a little. The one issue is like, it's rare that you have the opportunity to dispel magic out of combat in D&D time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But Max, you seem to like the ritual tag item, and I like it too. You've really inspired me with the ceremony. Just the word ceremonial is very good.
Yeah.
So I like this. As a ritual, the wielder
Farkas says Mike approves. Yeah, I like it.
You may cast the spell dispel magic using this dagger. Yeah, there we go. You can just use as much as you want. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fine. I'm pretty pleased.
Yeah, I think that's an item. Let's talk rarity.
Well,
it's not an
two
uncommon. Yeah, it's.
Now, here's my next question. Max, how do you feel with this being a +1 item? Or is +2 kind of important here? Or even a 0, even like not a plus item, right?
That's also an option. That I think there's a lot of kind of instinct to just go right for the bonus item, but it doesn't necessarily feel like something that would be required to have that extra power since it's so focused in what it tries to target.
Well, it's also the idea of it being magically enchanted, right? I guess it depends on where in the bag it goes. As a +0, it's like a regular item that just can dispel magic and cut through these save effects. I would probably put this in the I don't know. I'd put this in like mid hundreds, maybe. I think I'd put this at like the 150 range.
Yeah, I think. As a flat. I think this is pretty close, if not in very rare, as it is.
Yeah, well, exactly. You see, Max, you're saying he feels underpowered as a +1. Well, that's exactly the point, right? It's like it's a dagger, meaning it's going to be more powerful on like rogues or something that can use the finesse feature or maybe deal with the throwing feature. So like it is underpowered for like a very rare item without the +2, but if we made it a uncommon item, that would be a very different deal. So like, I don't know, my instinct with something like this would be to want to put it at that lower range, but it seems like you really want.
Yeah, it seems like you like it, so I think it's fine to just leave it as this.
And I would probably, you were saying the high rare category. I mean, obviously this is a rare item, it's a +2 item.
I was thinking even a low very rare.
Yeah, I was thinking, well,
I mean, I know it's a little bit. I know it's a little bit iffy because it's very specific in its situation, but its niche is very. It's a pretty broad niche, and it's like a fairly common niche, and it's so good against that niche.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably put this somewhere in like the.
Plus, we also tack the spell, the dispel on it.
I know, but that is a ribbon to me. I think. It will be
I don't think dispel. Well, I guess to be fair, in DnDTime, it would be a ribbon.
Yeah, at 10 minutes, I can cast dispel magic. I mean, I would probably put this thing at the 540 range, probably.
I mean, I can get behind that. Like
show where Pete and I are like, we're a prey.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, I think the item's in a good place, and we're not going to place it right now. So, well, it would be somewhere in that range.
Well, Sunblade is absolutely baller, Farku. That is one of the more.
Yeah, Sunblade is a bit better than where it is.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we put this somewhere in the mid to Pete one more in the higher range. I'm more in the lower range, so we'd meet somewhere in the middle in the 500. As a +2 weapon. So awesome, rule breaker. And important thing to note with almost all of these items, you look at the amount of text it started with and the amount of text it ended with. Yep. And you look at that with all of these items, and you can see, except for this one,
the whip of bitter weeping, I think is the only one. Yeah,
the only one that we've actually increased the text.
Or I suppose the horn of Dimitri as well.
Oh, yeah, but
that was an exception. Yeah.
For the most part, we've been taking the text and paring it down quite a bit. So, Pete, we're pretty much out of time here, which is unfortunate.
Yes.
But
so I think from this point forward,
we should at least talk about all the items.
Yeah, I want to go through and just kind of say a couple thoughts on each of them. Yeah, of course, Max. Thank you very much for submitting it. We appreciate it.
I just want to say, Max, we didn't make Rule Breaker awesome. You made Rule Breaker awesome.
Indeed.
We made Rule Breaker playable in DnDTime. You made a cool item. I'm sorry, Farku. Not this time, unfortunately.
We're going to talk about it right now. We just won't be able to actually go ahead and make them all out.
Exactly. So this is where we're just going to roughly talk about what we will be doing, but not actually go through all the text editing.
Flammapug, I need to make the Dogronomicon too. If you want Flammapug, we can make the Dogronomicon and just do the same thing with dogs. Unless you want to submit it.
To be wicked overpowered though.
Oh, legendary item.
So yeah, let's look at these, right? So first, Shovel of Bounding. I'll read this guy. Submitted by Blood Deuce. Thank you for the submission, Blood Deuce. I like this item. Obviously, you were a little confused to what we wanted to put here, but that's cool. The mithril gilded shovel twinkles with chivalry, no matter how much it is used to dig. While holding it by the guarded hilt, you can feel the springiness of the full handle. So I guess the idea is it's like a pogo stick, kind of like Shovel Knight. And I dig that. So he said quarterstaffs, bonus to jumping, and yeah. And I love that. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
That's an item that absolutely would make a lot of sense in D&D time. It's kind of things where it's like, yes, okay, maybe we stole this from Shovel Knight, but that's fine.
Yep, Shovel Knight.
Like, the developers of Shovel Knight are never going to be angry at us that we were like, wow, your idea was really cool, so we made a homebrew thing in our game to make people think of your game. No one's going to be mad about that ever.
But yeah, he references like, the quarterstaff bonuses to jump. Yeah, probably right. That's probably what we do with it.
Yep.
Seems cool. I like the flavor. Just needs the mechanics, which if you're chilling Blood Deuce next time, just there's mechanics. DMCA and bounce his card pocket.
Thanks, card pocket. So I mean, I think with this one, maybe we'd put a like the jump spell, but I think more likely we'd just put like a flat distance, right? Like with this item, you can jump instead of walk when you walk or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we'd give it like a +1, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. We figure it out. I don't know. It's just cool. There's a lot of interesting things we could do with this. So,
next we have Bionic Sheba. Bionic Sheba has submitted Bartholomew's beard. And what it does is the ability to cast Disguise Self at will when wearing this item, but you can only disguise yourself as Bartholomew. I think you've hit it perfectly as this being an uncommon item. It is just a very simple...
This is a rare item at minimum.
This is at least a legend. This is at least mythic. So, yeah, the ability to cast Disguise Self at will when wearing this, but you can only disguise yourself as Bartholomew, which has a lot of kind of context in terms of how powerful it is. Like, it doesn't have the full utility of disguise self and getting yourself in weird situations because you can only be one very specific thing that is useful sometimes, but not always. The phrasing needs to change around a little bit. It needs like one sentence, I think, of flavor at the beginning, but this is pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, I love this. I don't know what I would do with this. Like, in terms of the flavor, maybe I'd do something dumb about like, back in his wizard school years, his roommate shaved his beard and created this, or whatever.
I was thinking it was like I was thinking it was like a childhood stubbly Bartholomew who couldn't grow a beard yet and was embarrassed. Was my personal thought, but it all works.
Yeah, but we'll come up with something for that.
But yeah, good.
The flavor is great. This would be like a low 100, maybe even below 100 even.
Yeah, I would put this in the 80s to 100 range.
Yeah, I think so. Just because it's so weird.
Yeah.
I love
and sometimes, and sometimes items like this that might not appeal to everyone and has an effect that, like that might end up being better than it was, but because it's kind of like a funky thing, we'll rate it a little bit lower because it's something that not everyone might appreciate.
Precisely. But yeah, Bartholomew's beard. Thank you, Bionic Sheba, for your submission. This is another one of those ones that we got to, and it was just like, oh my god. Yes.
Yeah, it was very good.
Next, the Ring of Bartholomew. Submitted by Wyvern Soul, who I know I saw in the chat earlier. I'm not sure if you're still hanging out.
Oh yeah, if you're still hanging.
This ring made by the gnomes of Bartholomew, a tribe of gnomes that takes Bartholomew as their living god, aka the gnomes of Bartholomew's church. I remember this.
Yes, I do too. This was from last weekend.
Yep. This ring contains the power of faith in money, granting a +2 bonus to armor class for 1 round, +1 to AC at 15. That's an interesting idea, huh? Or 1d8 inspire. You must gaze at the ring before
to benefit from the inspire. there's a little, I think there's a few things in here that are just a little bit of just a lack of familiarity with some of the core mechanics. One thing I just want to note really quickly is I'm really into, well, no, I was going to say, I'm really into this idea of giving something that's a bonus to AC, but shittier bonuses to AC if you're already an AC hound. Like, I kind of like that mechanic.
I like that a lot, too. I might use that.
Me too. Like, I'm already thinking, like, man, there's a lot of stuff that I would like to give an AC bonus, only if your AC is not only over a certain point. Like, that would be a nice thing for DnDTime. Yeah.
Another thing that I might throw on this item. So, like, right now, actually, it's really well. It's for one round. So
yeah, you, Farku.
Like the shield spell or what have you, but I do like it. So I don't know what we're gonna end up doing with this. Maybe I like the inspiration. We like the armor class mechanic and shittier armor class if you're a lot better. So we'll definitely roll some in one direction or other with this. One of the things that kind of inspires me, a lot of the times what'll happen is I'll go to make an item or I'll go to revise items and I'll see something someone put in there and I'll just be inspired to make a bunch of other items. A great example is Scotty, who I don't think is in the chat right now, but one of our players, Scotty, plays Borquin, the unkillable, who we just can't seem to kill, created an item called the Mithril Katana of Purity that's in the bag. And upon seeing that, I was like, that's so cool. And I ended up going through the whole Bushido code and making a Mithril Katana for each one of the code, like the kind of codes within Bushido. Just because it seemed so freaking cool. Like, the idea was awesome.
As a note on this one, Jeremy, the idea that because I was actually had one for this one, and
that's
that was
why I said it. The segue.
Oh, did you have one too? Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go first, please.
Okay, I was thinking that you wouldn't get the AC bonus unless you had a certain number of Bartholomew bucks in your bank.
Oh my God, a stacking AC bonus based on the amount of Bartholomew bucks you had. Holy
up to a cap, obviously, but yes.
No. It just your first is a +1 AC if you have more than 300, and then a +2 if you have more than 600, and then a +3 if you have more than 1,200, then a +4 if you have more than 2,400, and it just keeps going, or something. Oh my God!
I mean,
and like limiting returns, but like if you got it to 10,000 Bartholomew bucks, you'd have a really great AC.
That sounds a little bit spooky.
Oh, I love it.
Something like that, yeah.
I was thinking of a ring from this, I love this now, tribe of gnomes that worships Bartholomew. I want like a holy relic that just gives you a discount on your bag pulls. Well, you have this artifact. Story tier pulls are 50 Bartholomew bucks cheaper. Fable are 100. Myth are 100.
That's also very excellent. That's also extremely good.
Basically, this item's radical, not because it's like perfectly written, but because it's so inspiring. There's so much flavor. Yeah. Like I said earlier, this is one of those items that would need so much.
This item's got heart. Yeah, this item's got a lot of heart, though.
Love and just like, awesome idea in it. So much flavor that I would absolutely stop and like revise this item and then make 3 other related items. Anyway, let me knock over all my stuff.
Flannel Pug, Bartholomew buck spray attack. Yeah, I mean it'll just go on and on.
Anyway, let's move down to the next one. This one represented.
Take it away.
No, it's your turn. I read the last.
I thought I did that one, didn't I? Oh no, you did. You're right. All right, no, you're right. It's the unstrippable armor. This was submitted by Farku, who's been hanging out. So this is an uncommon item. It is cursed plate armor. While you're wearing this, your AC cannot be reduced below an 18, and you cannot take off plate armor, nor can it be taken off you unless targeted by the spell Remove Curse or you die. It is rusty, worn, and uncomfortable. It is almost impossible to clean. The spell Prestidigitation may not reverse this effect. There's a rank awful stench from the previous owner and is most likely from them not being able to use the bathroom whilst wearing this armor. I like that you use the word whilst for that old English. It's primo. It's a primo one.
Dude, I mean, yeah. This is some primo armor. I love it.
So yeah, it's magical plate armor. Other than that, it's just functions as regular plate armor. Oh, actually, it's cursed,
so it's got to be magic.
Yep.
And immune to precipitation. Yep. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is a great way of putting plate armor low in the bag. Which is awesome because we really need more options for plate armor. Is something we want to treat like a magic item because it's so impactful. That every step up in armor class in 5th edition D&D is a huge increase in your survivability. So plate armor versus like splint armor is actually a monstrous increase in power.
And it's kind of why we don't allow that in the purchase.
In the shop.
Yeah.
But we definitely have plate armor in the bag, and this is a really good way to put low-level plate armor in this.
This reminds me, in terms of the flavor, an item that we talked about last week, which is the longsword of pain, which is the longsword that like screams in pain every time you hit someone with it because it doesn't like it. Like, this is kind of that same category where a lot of people will be like, "Oh no, I don't even want to."
You know, I love Max Meister in chat. Farku, this is disgusting. Yep. Thumbs up. I love these kind of items. Some people hate them, but other people love the idea that, like, what lengths does your character go to live, to not die? I love this stuff, especially lower in the bag.
Good.
It's great. Let's move on.
I agree.
Our next guy.
You get to do this one. I'm jelly.
Well, I did 2 in a row. Do you want to do it, Pete? You read this way better than I do. Please.
Let me read the Sword of Edanon. This is the one when Jeremy was saying it cracked me up. This is the one that cracked us up the most. This was submitted by, I do too. This was submitted by Luminarion, the GOAT, the GOAT, and he submitted a legendary item. So I'll begin reading this description. There's so much sass in this item description. I posted a legend. I do too. I posted a legendary item because it said to not post legendary items. Winky face. The Sword of Edanon is a glowing deep blue sword with a razor-sharp metal found only in the deepest dwarven mine. The sword itself was kept in the depths of the kingdom of Edanon's deepest dungeon, guarded by the immortal Edanon himself. It deals a ridiculous amount of damage and has the kind of Final Fantasy 15 regalia effect. So when you throw it or put it someplace, it will teleport the user to it any time at the user's will. However, there is a twist. The user rolls a d50 each time they try to teleport, and if they get a 23, they become lost in the multiverse, never to be seen again, unless DM teleports them in somehow. Also, they can only unlock the ability to teleport once they kill someone or something with the sword. They can't just pick it up and start teleporting everywhere. It will deal an extra 1d8 damage to undead and demons and deal slashing damage. All damage rolls should be +5. IDK what the base DPS is supposed to be. Please don't ban me. P.S. Also, if you make this, give it to Lumine Darkmoon.
This is beautiful.
It's so good.
This is amazing.
Indeed.
Absolutely beautiful. This is a work of art.
The thing that really killed me the most was it deals a ridiculous amount of damage.
Thank you, Lumine. Luminarian. Thank you. This is amazing. This is going to go in the bag in some means or another.
It will.
Were you not going to do that, Pete? Because I'm putting this in the bag.
No, we're 100% putting it in the bag. In terms of what we'll do to this item, I mean, this is another one that's going to be a lot of work to make it actually like function, and it will be a legendary item. And I mean, I don't think we need to go over some of the stuff that we would change and need to change about it. I just think it's very funny and good the way it is.
I love this so much.
And as a rule, you can also see anyone who is thinking, man, I really want to do a lot of legendary items. That legendary items are a little bit tricky to get going, especially if you're not like super experienced with building items. Like if we were actually gonna like build this and get it going right now, this would probably take like an hour if me and Jeremy really wanted to like get in, maybe not that long, but like 45 minutes if we really wanted to get into the nitty gritty and like make this for where we want it to be.
Like, I'll be honest, this is your quintessential legendary item. Exactly what this says is what legendary items do. So, yeah. Well done. Well done. Thank you for submitting this item, Luminarian. Thank you.
Indeed.
We have a couple more. Luminosite Eternal, submitted by Max Meister. Max is your second item tonight. We're on to the doubles. I actually really loved this item. I'm almost a little disappointed we didn't get to work on it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're gonna work on it, but
we'll make it. But
I love the idea because basically it's a magical pike which you can plant in the ground to become a magical banner, and that magical banner can inspire and heal your allies, and that is just radical. Inspires them, removing fear effects. It's just super cool. I just think it's rad. Can we make it on stream? Luminarian, we can't make it right now because we're out of time tonight. We're just reading through the last items to make sure we get through them. Because people took time to submit them, so we're going to at least take the time to showcase them here.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we'll come out for another round of this. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the future. But for now, anyway, I just think it's a really radical item. Like Max's other item, it's just mostly a bunch of like precise, like a little revision to mechanics here and there. There's really not a lot that needs to be like heavily changed here.
There's a lot of flavor here.
Yeah.
I mentioned that this was based on the Fate series. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, radical. I mean, the banner of inspiring and healing your allies, like the weapon that's also a banner, like that's not copyright Fate 2018, unless it is, in which case, shit. But
and maybe the name is, I do not know, but probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's sick.
Yeah, for sure.
The next item, Insta Sketch by Onyx Shiva.
Yeah, take it away, Jeremy. Just grab this last one.
Literally just a Polaroid camera. Oldman will stop at nothing to get his sketches, even if it means his death. Just want to make it a bit easier. That's an excellent point. I think we can actually revise this one perfectly. Cool, done. Literally just a Polaroid camera.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much an uncommon item.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. Uncommon items. Yeah, I mean that's a perfect uncommon item. I would rate it high uncommon, 290.
Are you trying to say common? Oh, I see.
I was the first time, but then I started memeing. No, it's a common item. We'd probably put this item in the 20s to 30, like in that range.
And you know what? That might be awesome. Because your character might be super stoked they just got a freaking camera. I mean, yeah, we could make it blind enemies and stuff and make it good, but like, screw that. I like it better. Yeah.
No, it's good like that. It's ready to go. Ship it, cut it, print it.
And we're going to keep it as a martial weapon longsword. No revisions necessary.
Wait, can I actually just throw a stab at? Can I just throw a stab at this one, actually?
Go ahead, Pete. Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. Again,
it does require attunement, though.
You got to attune to the camera. Thank you, everybody. Oh no, keep the attunement on there. What are you doing?
Oh, you want it? Okay.
Yeah. Pete, come on, don't be an
idiot.
I'm
sorry.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us tonight. I think that is the end of our list at this point. We're just we're at our common language, which I will throughout the week try and make this available for you all on the website. But for now, thank you to all of our radical players. That's all of you guys. I don't think we have any non-radical players, but if we do.
If you are non-radical, let us know and we'll correct that next time. But
I'm a little insensitive about non-radical people. Oh, geez. You know what? Let's not talk. Anyway, I love you guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you for submitting all of your fantastic items. Super.
They were very fun. We had a blast seeing all the stuff that you guys came up with. A lot of great stuff. Was very fun. Lumineron is non-radical. We'll keep that in mind in the future.
Yeah, fair enough.
And also, I would also like to just really quick, I want to double down on all of Jeremy's thank yous. Thank you so much, everyone. We love you.
Of course. And so that, I think, is going to be the end of our episode tonight. However, if y'all want to stay tuned, we have a few, not really announcements, but Pete, I think maybe we take 5 minutes and just kind of discuss our plans for the future.
Just talk a bit about it, for sure.
Yeah. So,
we'll start with the possible scheduling rechanges.
Yeah, I was going to say, so everybody, we loved your feedback. My cat's screaming in the background. Sorry about that, everyone. We loved all the awesome feedback you guys gave us on our recent feedback form. We really appreciated that. Super helpful for us. Yeah, we really, really genuinely appreciate it. And we learned a couple things. One, folks really like DnDTime Brews. It seems you guys have a great time every time we do this. And this, for me, and Pete, I know you feel the same way, but it feels like we're still just revving up with brews. I feel like it's getting better and better every week. And I'm having a blast personally, and I hope you guys.
Me too. This is I get really excited about brews when we're doing it. Super fun.
So for the remainder of July, our schedule is going to remain pretty much precisely as it is. However, going into, and actually I think through August we're going to keep it the same way too.
Yeah.
But going into September, Pete and I are considering some revisions to maybe have Brews be more of a weekly show instead of a bi-weekly show. To do that, we'd probably need to move DnDTime Talks to a bi-weekly position. We'd probably swap them around.
Yes.
So if you guys have strong opinions on that, let us know. Hit us up so we're aware of, like, if you're thinking, oh my God, having Brews on Wednesday would be horrible, let us know that if that's how you feel. If you love the idea of having Brews every week on a Tuesday, or a Wednesday, let us know. But basically, if y'all are enjoying Brews the most, we want to get the most Brews to you. We're still working out exactly our dates, how we would kind of rearrange things, but
essentially it would probably be Brews on Wednesday and then Talks done a little bit more infrequently on maybe on the Sunday slot, maybe some other thing that we haven't figured out yet. But the main thing would be that Brews would move to Wednesdays.
Yeah, and there was some other conversation about, not some other conversation, but on our little survey, there was some talk, some interest in short-term campaigns, which we think would be awesome. 5 to 10 episode, pretty thick, basically one arc campaigns. Which we might be starting up at some point. The big problem for us is time. Pete and I
it's finding the spaces.
Both work regular jobs. And on top of that, I commute for 4 hours every day. So it makes weekday stuff very hard for me to work around, at least. But we're thinking about how we can fit that stuff in. There was a lot of.
There's also a lot of. I was going to say there's a lot of interest in the Gauntlet, which is another thing we are going to try and figure out how we might be able to. Fit in. We haven't quite we have no finalized decision yet on how we're going to arrange those shows on Sunday, who would be playing in them, who will be running them, anything like that. So we're still figuring all that out. But it will be fun, and I think we're both really excited about some of the new content we're going to be trying to get out in the upcoming months.
Yeah, and for something like the Gauntlet, we'd have to be figuring out, well, are we going to do Delves and the Gauntlet, or what are we planning? One thing I did want to note for everyone here, with next week, with DnDTime Delves, we're going to be going back to Delves for next Sunday. On Saturday, I'm going to be hanging out here, and we're going to be building the Delve in DnDTime Behind the Scenes.
Yes.
Now, that's the show. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to keep rolling, but I've got some cool ideas to try and spice it up, make it a little more interesting. And starting for next week, we're going to see how this rolls, but I think we're going to brew up an entire one-shot just from scratch for the most part.
Ooh, Jeremy.
Out of the book.
You're making your own.
Yeah, so if y'all want to hang out and be part of creating that one-shot, figuring out the plot, as some might call it, the monsters, the foes, and all of that goodness, the traps, perhaps, stop by on Saturday, and it should be a lot of fun. I am not certain when exactly, probably going to shoot for 1 p.m. Pacific, as that's kind of my standard time here. So hopefully it all works out. Yeah.
And
you guys
like it. I think that's about it. Yeah, thanks again, everyone. Maddie Morgan, I look forward to your schedule as much as I can assist. Let me know. #conspiracy. Thank you very much, Maddie. I recommend to everyone here, I think we announced this on DnDTime, but also check out Maddie Morgs' content. He's got some great stuff. Maddie, if you want to link some of your, link the best way to learn about your stuff in chat here for people to check out. But he does a lot of stuff, kind of like we do, like building things, more of a focus on the GM side and storytelling and stuff like that. So it's cool to check out.
Well, it's also on the character creation side of things.
Yeah, a lot of character creation stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, awesome. Thank you all for hanging out and watching. We super appreciate all of your support. The best way we could ever grow is by word of mouth. So if you love D&D Time or any of our content, please tell your friends and let them know, hey man, D&D Time is the best. And then tell them what D&D Time is. Don't just walk away after that, because they'll be really confused if you just say D&D Time's the best and then walk away. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I thought, Maddie Morgs, it would give me the option to post your link. If you've got a link, just send it to me, Maddie, and I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, we'll get it in the...
And with that, thank you, everyone. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Pete. And this is DnDTime Brews.
Bye-bye.